We'll start things off with the map ban phase here and see what exactly is going to happen. It is, of course, a best-of-3 style of play. Each team will pick one map, and there will be a tiebreaker there. It was well with the teams being able to pick their sides, and we have Coastline, Consulate, and Border for you. That is interesting. Now, a big part of Obey's roster used to exist on teams that didn't really like playing any of the non-default maps. These are the maps that were added in later content patches for Rainbow Six. And, well, with the exception of Consulate, we got 2 of them right there on the board, especially starting off with Coastline.
I mean, I can understand why Obey want to go to Consulate. It's been a fairly decent map for them. I mean, I wouldn't say any map's been very strong for them, unfortunately, but it is definitely one that they should be favored. But there's also one they've shown a lot on, Elephant Gang, a team that is definitely going to study them. So it is, of course, on Obey to make sure they do very well, if not win, that first map, to make sure that when they finally get into their own territory, they don't have to go to Border. Border, I feel like they might do a little bit better on than Coastline, but at the same time, you really never know how it's going to go down like this. But Obey at least have been here time and time again, and I got to imagine they're hoping that this is their last time up.
Yeah, I mean, third time's a charm for both of these teams. Mouse in particular, I mean, I think, if I remember correctly, Mouse and Obey actually fought against each other in the first bracket of the qualifiers to get into stage 1, which is a pretty tough way to begin for either of these teams.
It makes me wonder, so Mouse actually switched over to the Western region. They were on the Eastern region before for the first 2 times, so it makes me wonder if they just were hoping not to get Obey again and went over to the Western side. But either way, that's why they're on the other side this time and in the second match instead of the first.
Well, it's interesting, right, because the Eastern team always plays first, as you would expect, based on time zones.
Yeah.
You know, typically Eastern time zone will come before the Western time zone in terms of viewing times. But moving over to the West Coast side, that's even worse for their coach, Morxus, because while the whole team is American, their coach, Morxus, is German, lives in Germany. So he's got to usually stay up a little bit later on these match days to make sure that he's there for his teams to be able to walk them
at least
through
weekend following this.
So we turn to Elephant Gang versus Obey Alliance. And as you mentioned, John Ackerley, also known as Avian, good old John, mentioned in his interview last week that he feels pretty confident about this matchup. He feels pretty good about it.
I don't know if I've ever seen him not feeling confident, to be honest.
I mean, he said he's got some interesting things prepared, and they've got some strats ready, so I'd anticipate that this is going to be a match not without its fireworks. So we'll get things underway with Coastline for our first map of the day.
And the Lion ban, not unexpected at all from pretty much any match at this point. Ying is definitely a good ban on this map as well, although I would say Glaz is probably the stronger ban for this map at the moment as a secondary one, but at the same time, it depends on who you're facing against, whether or not, for example, they have a good Glaz, if it's something you want to worry about. But the fact that it's not banned means we might see it, but Mir is going to be taken off. Again, not too much of a surprise. Probably Echo coming up next, but some teams like to shake up that second one.
Mira ban on Coastline is pretty standard. Echo or Maestro will usually inhabit this role, but we've seen weird things. But there you go, Echo gone. Echo is just so strong. And one of the things that Echo has over Maestro is that Echo can directly deny your plant, right? There is plant denial in hand for Maestro. The Evil Eyes do 5 damage per tick to you, but they overheat before taking you down. So if you've been softened up previously in the round, or if you've got a teammate there to assist you, the Evil Eyes are perfectly capable of stopping you. But the Yokai drone, especially with 2 of them, it's a possible 4 disorienting blasts that stop you from planting in your tracks. And we've seen it time and time again. If you don't have an operator that can deal with it, i.e. an IQ perchance, who you see on the board right now with Trip and running, and we usually would see Skies run on Obey, though if I remember, I think they had Maman or Bosco on the IQ in a previous matchup this week.
Trying to change it up a little bit after we may have been a little critical of Skies' play on it.
Obey has always struggled to get the most out of the utility that they bring with their operators. I don't think there's any argument there that Obey is a team that are capable of fragging well with pretty much any operator. You know, they were one of the few teams in NA, if you go and look at Pro League as an example, that were routinely bringing Sledge. Not an operator that you really see among North American, Canadian, etc. teams. But Obey was one of the last teams to be bringing Sledge reliably. They can frag very well. The problem with Obey has always been being able to put 2 and 2 together in regards to the utility of these operators, and especially IQ. They've lost a lot of rounds across an abundance of competition to Yokai drones, to Valkyrie cameras, to Vigils, when you've got an IQ on the board and you just can't get them spotted with the gadget, it's very perplexing to watch.
Well, on the upside for Obey, they do have a lot of intel to work with if they can communicate that well as a team. They've got the Maestro Evil Eyes, they've got Benji on Pulse, they've got those Black Eyes from Skies as well, so plenty of intelligence to make those calls to be able to do those things. Obviously, they're on defense first, so they wouldn't have to deal with a plant denial coming from those, but at the same time, Trippin being on that IQ means a lot of that could be shut down fairly quickly. They do have the ability to take out those the Evil Eyes with both the Zofia as well as the grenades of Neptune's on Buck. So definitely a possibility you could see those shut down, but those could be in difficult to reach positions. Starting on Kitchen first, not a big surprise, as that is a very strong bomb site when you don't have mirror. I mean, Penthouse is one people have been kind of trying to do without the mirrors, but it's definitely been a struggle for a lot of teams. Kitchen, definitely much more reliable, especially when someone like Benji can stay a lot safer down in Kitchen. He's more on-site and still being functional as opposed to having to play underneath off-site like you would on some of the top floor sites.
Now, for those that are unaware of how Coastline plays out, usually you're anticipating that the attackers will win more rounds than they won't. It is usually reserved for one of the few maps that are very good for the attackers. This is exacerbated by the fact that the defense lose a lot with the Mira ban and then possibly an Echo ban as well. But can we get the leadoff kill here? No, Benji's going to get spotted and tagged by the Capitao of K9 watching ever so valiantly and say goodbye to Benji. He's going to wide peek the doorway, and K9 doing what he does best.
Yeah, watching an angle.
Watching an angle, staying completely still and not missing those shots, and a good opening frag there to take out the Pulse after he'd used his C4.
In the meantime, though, Ghost has taken a bit of damage, and he is one of the strong fragging operators on the team, so they're not even going to bother with the reset. They're just going to hope they can continue to push this, but they have Buck doing all the floor destruction. They could use breach charges from Trippin as well to be able to open up a lot of that floor, so a lot of floor destruction going to happen, which it puts a lot onto my man here to actually go for a horizontal flank onto them, sneaking around as that Jaeger upstairs. If he can put some pressure on them, stop them from looking down, that will definitely help, because Avian is going to be able to put horizontal pressure on downstairs with that glass, very likely from delivery or kitchen window.
Yeah, so this is the site as well of Kitchen, where you can tear apart a lot of that floorway, and once you get control of Penthouse and Theater up above, it's very difficult for the defenders to be able to regroup there. The best that they can do is kind of retreat into the delivery entrance, which is where you see Bosco staring, but it can be tough, especially with the Glaz and a Capitao on the board. They can take a lot away from the defenders there, and the asphyxiating bolt will have to flush Bosco and Skies out. Skies will get tagged through the wall. He's just trying to get away, and he'll head for the hills, but he's been spotted, and oh no, Skies is as free as the day is long. Neptune's just eviscerating the Valkyrie from above. 2 sets of plant denial now off the board. And Bosco will need to do a lot of work with that smoke. No C4s available any longer. Avian taking out Adam, traded off, but my man on a big rotate tries to go through the window, and oh, there's my man! He just needs to shut down the Glaz, and waiting on time. Avian will need to peek him. They need to get the plant down, but 1 second left. Avian's gonna get outfoxed by my man, and he's gonna get it! Avian gets the kill at the final second on an intense finish. My man not able to stay alive long enough. No plant needed, a big round for the Glaz, and my man almost steals the show.
I don't even want to call those impact last frags, because he put up such an effort and just barely lost it out there. You saw the slow creep by him early on. The patience paid off. Just at that point, Elephant Gang did not have a strong enough peg on all the players. They were doing a great job pinning down the site, making sure that all the players there were getting pushed off of their positions. You saw that being from the Capitao, they were baiting out the smokes. They were doing a great job clearing it out and setting it up from above as well as the doorway, but none of them were ready for that flank from my man. So absolutely was so close to paying off there. I almost feel a little bit bad for him just because of the fact that, well, it didn't pay off in the end. But again, that was on Avian. Just, you know, he kind of gambled as well. He decided, you know what, I can't get this plant down. I'm just going to go for it and hope I can land the shots this time. And the PMM, as we know, sometimes is as much of a killer as the rifle.
It looked like it was out of ammo as well. I think he connected those final few shots.
Yeah, very likely.
And then from that point on, I mean, you got to be very, very lucky.
Yeah. But luckily, he does so much damage per shot. You don't have to land a ton of those shots themselves. Not to mention, of course, he's a 3-speed 1 armor, so you do have a slight advantage in that fight, assuming you can land those shots. Either way, though, did barely manage to win that. Avian did pretend he was going to go on something other than Glaz with the Maverick, but then sneak it over to the Glaz. He will be doing the same thing again on the same bomb site, so they're going to try it again. Not every team does do-overs on bomb sites. There are quite a few teams who just rotate off regardless. In this case, they will just continue to do it. The upside, I would say, of being a team that will be comfortable rotating off is, of course, you make it so they don't know exactly where you're going next. But at the same time, there is the nice thing about this format means you can adapt very quickly to something as opposed to thinking about it 3 rounds later when you may have forgot the adaptations you were planning to make. So we'll see if they can make those adaptations. Now, of course, they're going to be a little more prepared, I got to imagine, from my man's flank this time. So it's going to be on them to be a little more creative, but Benji has switched on to Legion instead of the Pulse. So I got to imagine he might actually go for a little bit of late game roam, potentially.
That was a huge risk as well, the way they used my man to put him on such a late flank. I mean, it's happened time and time again to a number of teams if they don't commit a flank watch. But Obey were down men. They had a big issue with coverage. They basically kept 2 bodies on site, and they relied solely on my man to get undetected, which he didn't.
Yeah.
There was nobody from E-Gang, and it was a bit of a blind spot in their defense, as I don't think most teams are expecting with 30 seconds left for there to be that late of a flank. And usually you would commit somebody to flank watch, absolutely. I can't believe that there was nobody watching, or maybe they were, and we just didn't see it that in the ensuing fight. They lost the battle to engage, but my man got 2 kills then before he flew out the window and picked up a 3rd.
Well, there was 3 focused on the door at that point, and I think because he'd waited for them to lessen what they were doing upstairs and focus more on the doorway, he had even if they had the extra drones or anything like that at that point, they were so busy firing downwards, no one was there to watch drone because, I mean, only dead players at that point would have been able to even watch those flanks at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, there might have been a Claymore there, not that we noticed. You had a Capitao on the board, so clearly there's at least 1 Claymore that's available at some point. But the Capitao might not have put it down.
Well, definitely a lot more of the attack this time coming from the bar side as they want to change things up as well because Elephant King doesn't want to be read into what they're going to do on their attack. But they are doing a little bit of roam hunt.
I mean, I think they suspect that my man is prone somewhere inside of VIP. And there you go. Adam is going to take some damage. Neptunes had gotten a couple bullets into him. And it appears that my man is fallen now off towards the couch side of things, and this Jaeger is just wasting so much time. Say goodbye to the Glaz. One of the most important operators last round will fall to Adam on Obey, and my man just missing a tag. He gets the down on a K9 so long. Ghost Neptunes trades it off as Benji does get the kill for Obey. K9 will need to be picked up, and Neptunes, dives right down, and Scotty connects. Takes out Adam, and the Maestro says goodbye inside a main lobby.
Such a risky pickup right in front of that big open wall, but that's why teams leave it open. But Skies and Benji with the flanks there. Again, down to just tripping at this point. Yeah, he has the ability to look for gadgets, but at this point, you're looking for players more and find Skies. Just 2 left to get, but he's the one on low health.
There's going to be a stack of goo mines available as well, and you can see, Trippin gets Benji. Bosco's going to need to clutch this one. What can he do? And there he has it with the SMG in hand. Shuts down Trippin and won't give him more than the 2 that Trippin had picked up right before that. Also, interesting to see an SMG-11 at such close range. The vertical recoil taking it right up to the neck and head. That's still the prime range to get a 1 shot on that shotgun. No real way else that Bosco could have screwed that up other than maybe a pre-fire from Trippin as a 3-speed around that corner, but ultimately a good hold. And more importantly, Obey take the 1 site that we expect defenders to win, which is Kitchen. This would have been very bad for them if this had been 2 rounds in a row with Kitchen falling to the attackers, because that doesn't give you a lot of options outside of that. Some teams have really struggled to be able to win the double bars, Penthouse Theater, or Hookah. So if you can't win Kitchen, you're in bad shape for most of the defense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very good chance at best you come out of that 3-2 disadvantaged. But to be fair, though, both of those rounds did come down to a 1v1. So both teams were very, I would say, equally matched on that bomb site. And I still, again, think the lack of banning Glaz is something that can hurt. At least they're going to try the Glaz. I mean, Avian's been literally a little hit and miss with it, but at the same time, it's still a very powerful operator. It is one where you can feel comfortable, as you're seeing here, not bringing hard breachers. This is one of the few maps where you can say, you don't need hard breachers, you could just bring a Glaz for the most part. And it's something that has been interesting to see as a development when it's not banned. But at the same time, Obey, hopefully knowing that, going to try and take advantage of that. Now, they are bringing a castle, which is interesting where it sits in terms of Glaz right now, because you still can shoot through it, but you cannot break a castle barricade with it. In the future, that may change to where the castle barricade can't even be shot through. But at the moment, it's not a bad place for castle to be in if you know you're going to be dealing with a Glaz. That then again, it is mostly on the Zofia at that point to open those castle barricades, as you don't often want to waste a grenade on them if you can help it. But at the same time, you got to do what you got to do to get those barricades open, or you're in a tough spot. Hopefully, though, they manage to use the soft breachers when they have them, if need be, to get those open. We are going to have Skies again on the roam. I mean, it makes sense for a Valkyrie to be on the roam just because, well, you set up your own cameras, you know where they're positioned, you know how to use them to help you if they're inside. But this is a map where a lot of them go outside. But I've got to imagine they know that if Trippin's playing, it's riskier to throw them outside.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't really noticed a ton from Trippin in regards to his IQ play. Most of the times that we've seen him, he's just been full fragging mode. It hasn't really been gadget out. And I mean, the 5.56 Commando, here's one of the follies of IQ is she has a very strong weapon. Her pistol is all right, it's pretty average. And she does obviously an excellent job of being able to take out any errant ADSs, goo mines, Valkyrie cameras, yokais, etc., while also being able to give off the information of any evil eyes, etc., that are needed. But while she has that pistol out, she also doesn't have access to one of the strongest guns on attack. It does so much damage, and that's a big reason as to why Skies plays her so much, is because Skies likes the gun, and she's a 3-speed, and
well, speaking of Skies,
say goodbye to Skies. Ghost manages to find him inside of security, just outside of the door in the main lobby, and goodbye.
A lot of angle play happening here. Now, the only one from Obey that's really changing up operators most of the time is Benji. So I think a lot of him is about making the adaptations. It's all kind of on what his role changes are, whereas the rest of Obey is pretty much playing the way that they're going to play. Regardless of the bomb site, for the most part, they have Skies on roam. Adam is kind of a working site with Bosco. You have Benji as kind of that sort of flex, and my man will potentially roam. If, though, Elephant and Gang are reading into that, each round should get better on their attack in terms of dealing with that, although, to be fair, they did lose the last one. But now Bosco is going to potentially get pinned out here by Avian, but at least he knows the Glass Rifle is there.
Benji over here by the planter inside of the hallway. It's commonly referred to as jungle by some teams. I know what they call that G2 refers to it as, because you're amidst a whole bunch of different types of flora, I believe it's called. So Avian is going to sprint into the side of double bars here. He's got some smoke to cut off an angle and then trying to use that thermal scope, quote unquote. Sees Benji, and 2 shots is all it takes for Benji to fall. Avian's going to continue to try to tie this rampage together. My man able to down K9, finish him off. Planter goes down, so that's a successful defuse in half of Elephant Gang, and Avian is just trying to play keep away now as he's going to take Adam down and not let him get towards the site. Bosco trying to come in, Neptunes is there holding cover, and well, it's all up to my man again, but Ghost got first kill, he'll also get the 5th kill, a nice bookend to the round, and that will be Elephant Gang picking up their 2nd over 3 rounds.
Well, they were definitely expecting my man to try and come for that retake late this time. It's definitely not going to be a big surprise to them, and just they had the manpower left to be able to deal with it in that situation, so it wasn't being flanked, and they had the diffuser down long enough for them to figure that out. So thankfully, Elephant Gang doing pretty well on their own map. So Penthouse is going to be the long shot here. It is, I mean, it is surprising to see a team want to go to Penthouse versus Hookah, just because I think Hookah's actually been not too bad. If you're good at repelling the push from Aqua into Billiards, it's not a terrible site to play, especially if you have a good smoke player like they do on Bosco. It surprises me they wouldn't consider that more. But then again, with the Glass, that's a nice long angle he could fight from the actual doorway to the balcony in Aqua, and as well as we've seen some even teams play from outside, even as far away as the ruins area, to be able to fire in long angles through the Billiards window, which can help with the plant if they go for a smoke plant. So at the same time, though, Penthouse is a difficult one to do at the moment, but maybe he's going to take a page out of what we saw from Latin America, where Elephant Gang is going to bring a clash on the defense there, which does help with peeking some windows, being able to put some control onto Penthouse as well as VIP. I mean, even in theater, if need be, depending on how you adapt it, if you have the call outs ahead of time on where the attackers are going to be and be able to rotate to that position fast enough, because it is a slow operator, you can be in the right position at the right time to deny so much time without doing it in the way a typical roamer would, where you're risking your life half the time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams that don't have good strats for Clash will struggle to use her effectively. I mean, even a team such as SK, if we can reference Pro League for just a second here, on Monday, SK, who typically have very good strats involving shield operators, who typically have some development in regards to how they're going to use things, and don't usually see their strats completely fall apart, especially on defense. Well, I think Mint got literally evaporated as he got hit with concussive mines and asphyxiating bolt, and then just shot to pieces inside of the hallway. It was an absolute massacre on Villa. That, and I mean, even G2, when we've seen before, when the way that they've ran Clash at the highest level, they use Jonas on Clash and goes on scouting missions, and well, you get pinched pretty early on. The problem with Clash for a lot of teams is that if you've got utility, it's much easier to take care of her.
Well, speaking of which, E-Gang has those tools.
Yes, they have, they've got the concussive mines of Ghost, they've got frag grenades on the Buck, they've got asphyxiating bolts on the Capitao. 3 tools that can work quite well to eliminate a Clash, but if the Clash can stay safe enough so that most of that has already been used, there's very little outside of pure fragging potential or a 2v1 in which you can knock her shield away with a melee and then be able to punish her that you can do. So it's really important that with Obey running this Clash, number 1, Skies doesn't get too aggressive and take any fights, and 2, he trusts and relies on his team to have his back and make sure that they can waste time and gadgets on the attackers.
Well, I think it comes down to good communication from both teams in terms of the attackers knowing where Clash is to position the Capitao or the Zofia for the counter, as well as Skies knowing where the attackers are so he can counter those particular operators in terms of not being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Now, good opportunity here to possibly get my man. He doesn't know he's been spotted on drone unless he did just catch the drone, which actually looks like he might have, as you heard the carbine go off, and now the Jaeger will head towards the bathroom. But Ghost was droning himself in main lobby, spots the Jaeger, and was in a great position to possibly take out the Jaeger. However, because that main door is open towards the lobby, as well as the delivery door that you see right next to him, it's going to be very difficult for Ghost to be able to sit on that rappel without worry. Now, depending on what the Zofia brought, you could conceivably, those asphyxiating bolts just missing the Clash. If he brought a Claymore, you can at least try to take one of those doorways out of action. But if he brought breaching charges, which would be strange on this site in particular, that could be taken away from him.
Well, at least they were able to get Bosco out of the position. But yeah, I believe that was both the asphyxiating bolts used, which in this case then makes it Skies is a lot safer in holding his position. But that doesn't necessarily mean he can do a ton to deny much other than try and protect Bosco, which unfortunately he has failed to do as Bosco has been downed.
Oh, my man is in a position to possibly go for a good flank here, but the Buck is going to be the one to see him. Can Neptunes connect the shots? No! Where you'll see, my man will walk away with the kill. Ghost finishing off Bosco, and there you have it. Sky's now finished off by Trippin from the other angle. Full control of the site. It's only up to the Maestro of Adam, but he'll look longingly in the doorway, and it's the scope of the glass that will see him first. Avian getting the kill, and that's now 3 rounds for Elephant Gang, doing as they need to do on attack here.
Yeah, a lot of the small adaptations for Obey, not changing enough of the game for them in terms of the way that EG are playing. It's been fairly dominant in a lot of ways. Some of the flanks have worked to an extent. I mean, the kill on Neptunes was definitely good from my man, but he was spotted, and it was a situation where it was just, he barely won that gunfight out, and it technically should have gone over to Neptune. So my man is, your tricks are starting to get a little bit predictable for them. I think there's only so many ways, we've talked about this before, in this particular map, roamers have to roam in somewhat of a square circle, which makes you a lot more predictable. There's 2 stairwells as opposed to some maps which have 3. So your ability to rotate around and flank and do things like that is difficult on this map if they can expect where you're coming from and do proper flank watch as Neptunes was trying to do. He did eventually fall, of course, during the middle of the attack after Neptunes died, because of course Neptunes was going to call out his position. But I still got to appreciate what my man's trying to do, because he is, I would say, being one of the more effective players on the team in terms of being able to at least stunt some of Elephant Gang's attack, because Elephant Gang's attack outside of some of those flanks seems to be very bulldozer-ish in terms of just pushing over, getting the map control they want fairly easily, pushing towards the site fairly easily. Sometimes the executes don't always work out in the chaos of all the fights, but at the same time, Elephant Gang seems very confident in their attack strategies. As you said, this is an attacker-favored map in many respects, depending on how the operator bans go down. The way they went down, I think, even more so favors the attackers, just because, yeah, you got the mirror ban, but you also got the glass left on the board. So in this case, Elephant Gang, a little bit of an advantage. Tables may turn after this round, as this is, of course, the last round for them on attack. But if Obey lose maybe a little bit too much of their motivation on some of these defenses, that may be a little bit of a struggle. Sometimes you want to start on the side that's going to be more round favored.
I mean, we saw it in the strength match with Obey. Once they started to get behind, I don't know how strong their mental fortitude is, if I can use that turn of phrase here, in particular against an opponent that seems to bamboozle you. Now, the way that Avian said it in the interview last week, I was under the impression that we were going to see some really zany stuff. I mean, that might come on
map
defense.
1.
It's map 1. It's also Elephant Gang's map, so maybe, because this is your map, take it slow, play the game you know, walk away with a victory. You got Consulate next. I know that Consulate is Obey's map, but we saw Consulate in the matchup of Obey versus Strength, and Strength almost ate their lunch. So
yeah, it was interesting. I mean, early kill into K9 though is definitely going to help. Or I mean, from K9 here is definitely going to help things out because a Maestro dying early in the round, I'd say it's not one of those ones that seems like an obviously really strong pick, but Maestro is so strong later in the round just because he's such a tank inside the site that's really going to soften things up and again put more onto my man to try and help save this.
And worth noting that when Maestro dies, the Evil Eye cams get locked in place, cannot be rotated by your teammates. So if you're not looking the right way, those Evil Eye cams can become completely useless for your team. So not only do you get the LMG fragging potential gone from Maestro with one of the strongest guns on defense right now and an ACOG to boot, but, well, you also lose 2 Evil Eye cams. Meanwhile, amidst our discussion, Avian is just absolutely bullying Obey. 2 very important picks onto both Maman and Skies. That's a weight off of the attackers as well, as the flank watch will need to be not quite as strong. Maman will be gone, and that's going to leave Bosco and Benji on the board. Tons of explosives from above, and Benji now under fire. Cannot out-duel Trippin with the breaching charges, the IQ just wreaking havoc from above. Bosco is pinned down, and, well, he's going to have to drone himself. Well, he's going to have to kill the drone himself, but as for the rest of the team, well, this is going to be very difficult. There's a Glaz coming in through the service entrance, and Bosco's going to throw down 1 Toxic Babe, expecting a push from Courtyard. He's going to have to hold many angles. He will get Ghost, so that's a good start, and pings will come down from the Evil Eye cams. Goo might not have to be pulled out of the foot of Trippin, but as you can see from Elephant Gang's bar in that top left, not a lot of damage that's been done to them. Diffuser is going down. Asphyxiating Bolt will hold him in place for just a second, as Bosco will now have to battle against a Diffuser. So that's 2 rounds that Elephant Gang will have gotten that Diffuser planted successfully.
With 45 seconds left to spare as well, which is a very good, confident attacking round.
Bosco's going to try to go for a rotate as he does some environmental destruction and tries to reshape the kitchen so he can get a vault out, but I think he realizes that he's got the time working against him. He's going to blow a couple holes in the wall, and, well, there's Avian there, and from above you've also got the Buck. Bosco's going to try to fight on too many angles, way too many windows to look out, and that's a 4-1 split through the first half. Elephant Gang, well, they're just trampling over their opponents, and they've only got 2 more rounds to pick up on defense in order to put Coastline in the books.
And I definitely think it's possible. This is usually a map where we very often see teams go 3-2 across it in terms of being able to pick up 2 defensive rounds, but some of that's going to depend on whether or not the attacker bands actually favored Obey or hurt them as well, because we saw Avian willing to run with the Glaz every round and take advantage of the fact that it's not being played, whereas I don't know if we really see the same thing from Obey. That doesn't seem like something that is really a strength for them in terms of the way they want to play it. They're going to play with a slightly different lineup. Instead, they are going to go with a Hard Breacher, which I said is one of the few maps where you can kind of interchange those. In fact, I believe it was Fabian who might have even said that, where he's like, we have Glaz, we don't need a Hard Breacher.
Yes. So
it is a case where they're going to go with the Hard Breacher instead, and we're going to see the one bomb site we have yet to see, which is Hookah. So this should be interesting to see how this goes down, because it will be down to whether or not Obey are able to read in quickly to what Elephant Gang are doing, because, of course, Elephant Gang set it up so they only have to win 2 rounds now, so that is just even more pressure on you to adapt quicker, rather than say, okay, we lost that round, that's fine, we can come back on the next one. Well, maybe not so much when you're down that much already in a 4-1 situation. It's definitely looking good, though, for Elephant Gang. They've been looking forward to this match for a week now, and it's definitely, so far at least on their map, paying off for them.
I mean, like I said, Kitchen is usually going to be the site that you anticipate that teams will win. It went 1-2 for Obey. They only had
barely on the 1 win.
Yeah, I mean, it was still quite tense that they had there. I mean, they did come very close with Maman's flank, so there needs to be some credit that's paid to them in that sense. But outside of that, we didn't really see all that much. It seemed like a lot of times Obey did not have coverage for the early push. They lost a body much faster than you'd anticipate, and they would rely very heavily on the late flank, and that's playing with fire.
And I mean, to be fair, in the early rounds, it was the right strategy to make. In the later rounds, it was not the kind of thing you could rely on anymore, as we were talking about. And they even decided to finally rotate Skies off of the Valkyrie, and instead went with, we'll have him on Pulse instead, which I don't think is going to give the same caliber of info, other than trying to stop the push from upstairs, which unfortunately they were not able to push back whatsoever. So that pick, well, I think he might have even been the first kill. It left them in a situation where they didn't have the intel once he was dead, the same way they would have with those Black Eyes.
I mean, there were a couple of times when Adam was the first casualty as well, and possibly even Benji, and it's not good when you're losing pivotal operators who you need in that home stretch of a round.
Yeah.
So
could go either way. So, I mean, we'll see how Elephant Gang does with the same utility, though.
Obey being able to walk into Aquarium right now, and they take out the one castle barricade. Now, here's something that we also haven't seen from these teams, are castle-heavy strats with environmental destruction to open things up and give a lot of room to the defenders to be able to play quite comfortably. It was something that Obey was lacking, as I noted. They had a lot of trouble being able to secure their position on site, and I think it was Bosco who only reliably lasted until the final moments of
Well, especially that last round, he really put in an effort. But my man, Sky's the first to go, unfortunately. That means this attack already shut down a little bit, because losing those two operators early is definitely a lot of firepower. Maybe not necessarily the utility, but a lot of good gunplay is going to be gone now.
I mean, you're losing somebody who is integral for possibly finding those evil eye cams, as well as the black eyes that you have of Valkyrie. That's problematic. You've also got two of the best guns on attack that are taken out as well, and any real presence that you would have downstairs in the bars, being able to shoot up the floor and really cause a lot of problems for the defenders in the buck is gone. It's all up to Bosco now to really make that happen.
Well, now it's going to be a lot on Benji and Bosco to both use the utility to force people out of those positions, because without the buck to do that, that's what you have to do. Because, yeah, when you have people like K9 that can sit in a position and hold an angle, you better believe he's going to be good at that, and they have just utility to deal with that.
And speaking of that utility, Bosco still has one concussive blast remaining, but has used two prior. Heard the ADS go off and possibly eat them out. K9 had sustained quite a bit of damage playing inside of pink, as you saw that Adams Hibana was playing on the roof. So they've got the flank that's possibly cut off, and now Obey will just have to go for it. 20 seconds in, but there's Trippin to greet them. One with the SMG-11. He'll pick up a second, gets downed by Bosco, and once again, a familiar refrain. It's all up to Bosco, one of Obey's best players, but it's not going to matter. Neptunes will put his team on match point, and this has been a powerful performance for Elephant Gang, up 5-1 right now.
Well, it's definitely going to be, then if this ends up being a fairly short map, it's going to be on Obey to have a strong start, I think, on Consulate, both from a motivational standpoint for their team, but as well as for Elephant Gang, to make it seem like Elephant Gang, because they're going to be feeling fairly unstoppable right now, and that's something that is, when restrained, is a very powerful thing in this game, because confidence can give you the ability to make peaks and shots that you wouldn't necessarily normally. It almost feels like a superpower at times if it's channeled properly, because you want to be able to push aggressively in situations where you have the knowledge to take advantage of that. You do not want to be too passive when you have potential advantage. Elephant Gang seems to be playing off of that strength a lot, where they know where people are at. They'll peek it. They'll play those plays. They'll make the pushes confidently into the site. I mean, I got to imagine the drone play was fairly good for them on attack. Unfortunately, they can't do the same thing on defense, obviously, but they're still having the knowledge to play off of that. They're, again, using the black eyes to help with that, although we saw the one in Aqua did get taken out. But either way, with my man, as you mentioned earlier, going down sooner rather than later, definitely made sure it was harder for them to deny whatever information Elephant Gang had, to be able to continue to be confident in their plays that seemed to work. Even you saw with Trippin towards the end, they're playing with the SMG-11 and the shotgun to just completely try and push them off the site.
Not often that we reference the scoreboard of players, especially in this matchup, which has not been exactly a matchup where impact frags have been the big deal for a lot of these teams. There haven't been a lot of trade-offs. It's mostly been opening kills, and then from there it's snowballed for both of these teams. But when you've got Adam and Skies both bottom fragging, especially Skies, who's one of his biggest focuses is on getting those kills. He's probably one of the best shots that we've seen over Obey through and through in terms of his ability to land those bullets on their targets.
Yeah. I can imagine it's team coordination and communication, and
Absolutely.
but that's always been Obey's seeming difficulty that they've had.
It was a team that was assembled a couple months back, and I think a lot of people were very high on them and said that, you know, it was a team of superstars that a lot of people thought that the fragging potential would be able to carry them. But I know that we all as casters in every single league have touched upon how support players really matter and don't get the glory that they need. I think that this team is a perfect example of how vital good support play is.
Elephant Gang especially as well, because there's a lot of former support players forming up that team.
Yes, that's true. There's not a ton of fraggers on Elephant Gang. You know, you had Neptunes who would usually get some frags on attack, but on defense would usually play a smoke roll or a sight roll. You know, you've got Ghost who's a fragger through and through, don't get me wrong in that regard. K9 who would typically do flank holds or even just anti-rotate holds for attack. So you've got that. But yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, Trippin can play Ashe as well. So if you've got flexibility, and K9 gets droned out, and their Sky's getting an important frag, and he's going to be able to open things up here, taking out the Maestro, and Obey had lost the Maestro a couple times, so you know how pivotal Maestro can be.
Well, he heard you about the frags there in terms of Sky's struggling. But to be fair, he is tending to be a stronger fragger on attack often than he is on defense. A lot of times when we see Sky's play, but at the same time, it's it depends on how they're playing in the map, and we may see things change over on Consulate as well. Maybe the case where he's fragging out on defense there. But either way, that was a good start for this round, at least taking down K9. We talked last round about losing Maestro early and how much that can impact the round. But in this case, nice kill back from Trippin is going to start to change things back. However, completely falling apart here for Elephant Gang.
Obey are in great position now to just break open Elephant Gang as Avian tries to rotate haplessly to help the rest of his team. Neptune's with a very low rate of DPS on that MPX will have no shot, literally, as he does not connect on what he really needs. Benji is the savior of that round, and Obey will manage to stave off defeat, at least for the time being. We will sit on match point for the next 3 rounds unless Elephant Gang is able to put one on the books, which is not exactly a guarantee given the way that Coastline plays out. They have not gone down to Kitchen, though, so that is something that is open to them. It does appear that they're going to go with that first, as it looks like they might have it locked in. Excellent choice for them, I think, overall. Is, like we said, that's typically the site that we expect you to win upon.
Yeah, and it's a case where playing the Glass on that, I think, is very favorable, whereas, like I said, the Obey is not going to be playing that. They're not going to be taking advantage of that. I mean, whether or not you like Glaz, he is an advantage operator in a lot of situations where he's going to provide an advantage that you just cannot get from anyone else. Yeah, you can look through smoke with an Evil Eye, but the laser is nowhere near as powerful as Glaz's rifle. So it is such a strong thing to be able to play with in combination with a Capitao, especially because of your ability to land those smoke canisters very precisely, as well as deny, right through ADSs. On a site like this, where ADSs are typically going to be that kind of down that funnel of delivery, if you don't even have to worry about those, it becomes down a lot of times to the smoke player, and we saw that with Bosco to try and deny that. In this case, that's going to be Trippin. So if they can stay alive long enough to continue to block that, maybe even see some good use from Avian's Castle, there's not necessarily as much that I would say that Obey can do. And you were talking about them bringing Sledge a lot earlier. That's what they're going with again. My man's going to be on that Sledge, but they also have the Buck. So vertical should work in their favor this round if they're able to take top floor control quickly and hold on to it. If they don't go for a flank like from Elephant Gang like we saw from my man.
On the double bar defense we just saw, there wasn't as much of a focus on vertical play. And I think that worked very well for Obey, but you're unlikely to be able to pull that off a second time. You can't just have all of that presence from your team go in through the front door because you'll get picked apart, especially as you see, Elephant Gang will likely rotate to try and stop that push through the double bars foyer. But as for Kitchen, your first point of contact is going to be inside a penthouse, and that's Ghost, who's very aggressively taking the fight towards Hall of Fame, and there's 3 bodies from Obey that are all stacked up there. You see my man Bosco and Benji with Skies, so make that 4. And they're going to have to confront Ghost and Neptune's playing inside of Theater. So far, they've committed a minute just to pretty much get into Hall of Fame. And 2 men inside Theater tends to be a very strong thing because more often than not, you're going to be able to trade 1, at least, if not 2 kills out from the defenders, and then be able to rotate whoever's left back to site. So if Obey is not very coordinated in this attack and using some of the utility from the Zofia or the Capitao, it's very likely that they're going to lose a few people trying to push Theater. Now, the way that that drone got in, it might be possible that one of these 2 defenders from Elephant Gang has not been spotted. They knew that the Jaeger was up there. They were able to try and hunt down Ghost, but Neptune's position might not be known to them. Neptune's gone, though, so they do know there's a Valkyrie, or at least there was a Valkyrie, and the Sledge of a man will take 75 damage in the encounter, but will walk away with the frag. That is important. To start things off, that'll be a C4 off the board, but it's taken about a minute and a half for Obey to be able to establish control in Penthouse and Theater. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately wasn't able to trade, but burning the time here alone, if Ghost doesn't die and is able to even rotate back to site, that's still a lot of advantage for Elephant Gang. I mean, yeah, they have to worry about a lot of that vertical play, but still, Ghost being able to hang out up here and stop, being contested, definitely going to work his advantage. Unfortunately, has to tear down a castle barricade, but I suppose Avian gets it back in his pocket if he wanted to use it later. That could actually be a smart move, because if Avian knows that he has time, he could be establishing that castle barricade somewhere else and possibly using it at this point to try and keep out the attackers. But we mentioned the vertical pressure. Skies is up there right now trying to rip everything open. It also looked like he was doing some flank watch from above. Trippin says goodbye. Bosco gets that kill. Second for Obey, but Ghost gets the first for his team.
Nice for him to finish off the job that Neptune started, managing to get that kill. That is one less person that can start some vertical pressure, but Skies is still more than enough in this. This is where AV needs to play it smart, though, because the plant's going to start to go down. They have the manpower, but they've got to find the spot where the plant's actually... There we go. Adam going down. Now it's trapped inside sight.
And this is match point. Keep that in mind. Bosco and Skies do not have that diffuser. They will need to rotate, but they've got no time. Very little left. Skies will drop. He's going to get caught. Bosco obliterates Avian, but will not be able to get the next, and that will be Elephant Gang taking your first map. 6-2. Very similar scoreline that we saw against members only just last week. And yes, it was Elephant Gang's map on Coastline, but still, overall, a really good result. And that will put Obey on the back of their feet and knock them on their heels for Consulate.
Well, definitely been, as you said, a good map for them. Is going to be up to them to just be well prepared to turn things around in Consulate and make sure to have that infamous map reset mentality, where they go into the next map going, that's fine, that was their map. We were prepared for them to win that. We're ready to win our map and the decider. That's the thing, though, is when you don't have the first map, you now rely on the decider to work in your favor, because that is the only way you can come out of it a winner. And the decider, of course, in theory, should be anyone's game at that point. So it is difficult because, of course, if you can take someone on their own map, that puts you in a very strong point. So I guess the flip side of that is if they start on their map and you take them on it, now you're in a very good position.
I mean, outside of the Glaz play that we saw from Elephant Gang on attack, there was really nothing that was that strange about the way that Elephant Gang played things out.
Just confident.
They played confident. They played very well coordinated. They would routinely have each other's backs. You could see that there were a number of rounds there where it looked like Elephant Gang had a fight for a draw on defense. Now, mind you, we only saw 3 rounds on defense, so that is somewhat of a smaller sample size than we'd expect. But overall, I don't know how much of that was necessarily Elephant Gang playing well. I think they played well, but a lot of it also falls on the shoulders of Obey, really not being able to step up when need be. Too many opening deaths with no opportunity for them to refrag, no draws, very minimal coverage on a lot of parts. You saw that they got run in on. They got trampled quite literally by a herd of elephants there in a number of places. That's problematic.
I mean, we definitely saw some rounds where they seemed to be coordinated, where they were able to kind of work together. I feel like that last round, the way they pushed Theater, they pushed Theater as a nice team. That was an example. Had we seen that, say, like the previous 6 or 7 rounds from Obey, I feel like that would have been a very different turnout, because that was the teamwork and coordination that you're talking about. We weren't seeing them work together in team of, yeah, you're going to die. People are going to die. You're rarely going to end a round with 5 people alive. Being able to trade those kills out or burn time is the fundamental part of making those kills worthwhile, either that or doing your job before you die. And I feel like a lot of those things that I just mentioned were not happening on those deaths from Obey, and that's ultimately just, it gave Elephant Gang the ability to just play normal without having to do anything special and still kind of roll over them.
Whenever we saw Elephant Gang want to take control of Kitchen, or even try to go in through that service delivery entrance, they would smoke off, they would cap a Tau off. Exactly the same as we saw from Obey.
Yeah.
But the only difference is that Obey doesn't have a comfortable Glaz player on it. We don't know how much of Elephant Gang does, but Avian certainly looked like a very comfortable Glaz player in that round in particular. And I mean, if you're going to smoke off delivery and go for a push, you need something to be able to box out the defenders, because the smoke is not going to be enough. What's going to happen? You're going to have toxic canisters get thrown in from Glaz, or from smoke, to try and combat a Glaz or anybody else there. You're going to see a C4 go out. There might be an evil eye cam. There could be somebody playing from above or in bathroom. Obey was going in blind on 2 separate occasions trying to take that service delivery entrance. The one thing that Elephant Gang did quite well was they had the Glaz.
Yeah.
They had that coverage. So the smoke was one thing, but it was the Glaz on the other side of it that stopped them, and just those small things could have meant a big difference for Obey.
Honestly, you don't have to have a competent Glaz, because it's the threat. If they there's a Glaz and smoke is up, you cannot move. It's almost like a lion in terms of peeking.
Yes.
You just cannot take a peek at that point, because he could just see you as this bright yellow highlight and you see nothing but gray. Whether that be your yellow smokes coming out of Bosco, or it be the smokes that he's popping. And when you're playing with a Glaz and a Capitao combined, which is a fairly common combo, or even with a Jackal. The extra smokes mean you can do it for that much longer. It means you can pressure site. Like you said, yeah, you need more than that to box the defenders down, but to lock the defenders down on position for as long as possible by having 4 smokes on board, it's so much threat that if he doesn't die, like the Glass doesn't die in that process, everyone else gets to do their job that much more effectively. But on the flip side of that, a lot of credit to Bosco because he played his smokes spread out. He played them smart. You saw how long he lasted that one round with 5 people hunting him with the ceiling destroyed, and still played all 3 smokes as best as he could, stayed alive as long as he could. It's just the fact that they couldn't do a lot else. Still, though, a credit to him at least being the best smoke he possibly could have been at that point.
If you, without looking at things such as time spent on drones, time spent on cams, call-outs being made, etc., which is very difficult for us to be able to get that information on, the 2 standout performers for Obey, and really the only reason why that wasn't a 6-0, are Bosco and Maman. Yeah. That's it. If they have a weakened performance and nobody else is there to step up at all, it's a 6-0 for Elephant Gang. They were incredibly important on both defense and on attack for their team, and they're going to need a bigger team performance. You know, you don't want to point fingers at the people who haven't really showed up effectively, but there has been a disconnect amongst the rest of Obey's roster right now with being able to match the contributions from Bosco and Maman, and they both showed up big when need be. Now, Capitao has seen a lot of usage on Consulate. Time and time again. There are a number of teams, especially in North America, who will bring the Brazilian operator because he offers so much versatility. As you noted, a Glaz combined with a Capitao is a scary thing. Glaz, if he goes unbanned, sees a lot of play on Consulate. It's in Obey's hands right now on the second attacker ban. A Lion does seem pretty standard, but it's not a given with the fact that Capitao was taken off the board. That might throw a wrench in Obey's plans, but they were the team that banned Lion last time, and well, it took them a little bit longer to arrive at that conclusion, but the conclusion will still be the same. So a Capitao will join a Lion, which means that Glaz will still be on the board, and Ying, who had gone banned from Elephant Gang last time around.
I mean, I like in a way that Elephant Gang forced them to leave Glaz open again by banning first with Capitao, because they banned an operator that both teams were willing to use, right? I mean, yeah, obviously both, the Glaz gets a bit more use from the Capitao, but at the same time, it's something that Obey needed as well. So by taking that off the board and then forcing them to have to do the Lion ban, still again left Glaz in their favor. Oh, of course, that means Blackbeard as well. So you have the ability to play a lot of window play on this. Echo is going to go, but Mira manages to stay, which this is a map where I don't think that matters as much as some others. But Pulse being gone should be interesting coming out from Elephant Gang there. That is going to counter some of the players on this team because I'd say quite a few of them will regularly play Pulse, whether it be Skies or we saw Benji playing it earlier as well. I feel like there's a few different players that'll even rotate onto it as needed. That is definitely going to be the top 4 bomb site. Maybe, I'd say a little less defendable in a way because you've got the window play potentially by something like Glaz, and then the inability to defend it from below without that Pulse. However, of course, Obey are on attack first, so we won't know whether or not we'll see that Glaz. Again, I don't think they're likely to run it. They are going to run 1 DMR, though, and Benji with the Dokkaebi. That gets 6th picked off, of course. I had a feeling that was going to happen, but he's going to be the one to run that Blackbeard, and I always find that a little disappointing to see anyone but Bosco playing that, just because, I mean, that's not to say that other people aren't capable on it, but Bosco is quite the beast on that Blackbeard. However, he's also been very strong on Zofia, so it's not a huge loss or anything, but it is always interesting, too, on this map to see. We were talking about hard destructors and the lack of them coming from Elephant Gang and the Hibana coming out from Obey. This is a map where you kind of have to take Thermite even a lot of times when you don't need him, and that puts a lot of teams at some disadvantage when they cannot predict what the bomb site will be. Later rounds, not as big a deal because you can sometimes anticipate whether or not you need Thermite. But the first couple, it's a tough spot to be in because you have to give up what could potentially be another very strong utility attack operator. Now, instead, you've got to bring Thermite.
Yeah, there have been a couple teams that have been able to successfully attack every site here without bringing a hard destructor. You know, there's Evil Geniuses very infamously attacked Consulate a couple weeks ago back in North American Pro League without bothering to bring a hard breacher. They brought a Hibana for 1 round, but that was all she wrote for hard destruction. Now, it's definitely doable, but I think it takes a lot of concentration and a lot of coordination to make sure that you're pulling off the strat and it's not falling apart. It needs to be a little bit more robust than what we typically see, which is take Thermite, open garage, finito for hard destructor. There needs to be more than just a singular focus there, or else you end up putting yourself at a major disadvantage because you need all the tools at your disposal to be able to open up. Usually server and attack through the staff area, which is typically what we see at teams that don't bother to run with a hard breacher. But for those that do, a Thermite is always a must because you always have that garage looming in the distance, and for teams that don't have strats based around anything but taking that garage, a Thermite is required.
And I think that's something that teams maybe need to work on in the future, just because the big disadvantage I was just talking about that you end up in if you cannot just play with Hibana instead. But there is a little bit of pressure coming here from a lot of different angles, forcing someone like my man, after taking a little bit of damage, to have to play this differently. Nice grenade, but they're losing a lot of their outside pressure because Elephant Gang's doing a good job pushing them back from a lot of these spots. Obviously, they do have the mirror this time to be able to peek more confidently in certain angles, to be able to put pressure on, because, of course, without... and again, this is another reason why the Hibana is a good pick, because... yeah, they're not running a Bandit or a Mute. There's nothing to stop you from taking out those mirror windows with a Hibana. You're definitely not going to do it with a Thermite.
Yeah, and, you know, seeing a mirror on Consulate is not strange, but this is one of the few maps where you usually see a Valkyrie or a Pulse possible ban. You'll see a Maestro or an Echo get banned. You'll see a Clash possibly get banned here as well. Those are usually operators that take out strategic bans, and Mira oftentimes will go unbanned. For Obey, there is a bit of consistency in the way that they ban. You're expecting Obey to possibly ban a Lion or an Echo or a Maverick or a Clash. Those have been most of their bans against most teams over every single game that they've played, be it in USN or be it in other levels of play. So unfortunately, a disconnect for Trippin. That is ill-timed.
Well, one defender down.
And they're going to lose their Mira, so C4 is off the board. We'll see if he can reconnect at some point, but Neptunes will make up for it. Almost gets a double. He's still going to find his team now battling from behind, but it's problematic as down goes Bosco. K9 holding the angle with this pistol, and he's going to go for broke, but my man will be able to shut him down, waiting to see if someone's going to dive on Bosco using the Zofia as bait.
Well, I like the idea of using the Bailiff like that because you usually see it smoke do it, but Bosco is just tearing through them on the yellow stairs, and it's all on Ghost here because Trippin is gone. He's been doing a good job holding us off, but unfortunately he's not going to pull a Bosco because, of course, Bosco going to be one to shut him down. Yeah,
Bosco huge in that round. Big in game number one, and he has shown up, I think, more than they had anticipated. Obey clobbering Elephant Gang on a pretty good attack here on Consulate. Now, Trippin is back in, so there will be no need to rehost. But unfortunate for Elephant Gang, they lose that plant denial with the C4. They lose the Vector being able to take close range fights. You saw that the smoke had to rotate over to Connector, which is not a great place to be with the way that the SMG-11 has been changed. And for those that are curious, the sidearm SMGs, you're looking at the Bearing 9 on Hibana and Echo. Yep. You're looking at the SMG-11 on Sledge and on Smoke.
Well, and one way they could have been playing it as well as been playing it on the yellow stairs. We see a lot of really good smoke plays on the yellow stairs because of the shotgun on that corner. But that's why I like that K-Dan was trying to do the same thing with Bailiff, but the damage is just not there. That almost ends up as more of a utility shotgun sometimes, similar to the ITA, just because it is not going to pound out a ton of damage compared to the pump, because the pump is just... the shotgun from Smoke is such a killing machine, especially in the hands of players like Slash, for example, that are very, very strong on the shotgun being more of an actual primary for them as opposed to the SMG-11. Whereas I feel like Bosco has definitely leaned a lot more to the SMG-11 and just tried to adjust for the recoil changes. It's going to be a bit of a mixed bag here between the Smoke plays because of that. But at the same time, Ghost playing upstairs, while he was doing some good work, the fact that they lost Trippin kind of forced him to have to play a position that I think he could have been better playing elsewhere.
Yes, and I mean, usually Smoke's position will be inside a projector, which is referred to as an official call meeting hall. It's where the balcony is, and it's just on the lower part of your screen with the bomb in it. There you go, it's being drawn attention to. You can actually see the wall half reinforced. Like I said, typically, it's referred to as projector by a lot of teams. It's called meeting hall in the game, but projector just tends to be...
We have a lot of projectors. We had it on the last map as well. In theater, some people call projector as well.
Yes,
same with the I was going to say, there's like karaoke kind of one, sometimes referred to as projector even.
On Skyscraper, yeah, the karaoke is called purple or projector as well. So I mean, those are definitely there. So yeah, there's a lot of rooms with projectors. Old Hereford used to have one as well, if I recall. So I mean, it's a very popular asset here that's brought out in a lot of maps. There's a lot of presentations that are happening in these training simulations, to say the least.
It makes sense.
My man will get picked off by Ghost, as Ghost went for a spawn peek and was able to pull it off. So losing the IQ early on will not be crippling given Elephant Gang's lineup. There isn't much that you necessarily need the gadget of IQ for, but it's still a potent fragger. And my man has good decision-making skills and is typically a good shot, and when he shows up big. He has sometimes disappeared from matches and has not really been as big of a factor, and he was certainly a very pivotal role or a very pivotal operator for Coastline as a player. Consulate so far, we'll need to see him be able to get back into that third round.
Well, there's 3 people stacked up just trying to take Neptunes down. If he can even take one of them at this point, that puts him in a great advantage because, well, his job is done at that point. He can just play for time and get kills. But the pressure actually works out. Bosco, again, kind of the spearhead of this team at the moment, doing great work with that Zofia. Hopefully he's managing to save a little bit of utility as well for when they start to get towards down plant. But a minute and a half's been burned, and it's been 1 for 1. So still, I would give advantage to Elephant Gang here in this position.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 1 C4 available. I think Avian has likely used his grenades, I would speculate. I could be wrong. 1 minute and 10 seconds, and you hear the first toxic canister will go off from Ghost. They will lose the Mira on Connector, and now Trippin will just push inside of Consulate office. Now, they've read this correctly. The push is going to be coming over from the admin side, so you don't really need to worry too much about pressure from the Consulate windows. Actually, a lot of teams have been taking more of an investment in the admin side of things as of late, especially Obey. And a big part of that is, well, you lose control of long desk and you make it very difficult for the defenders. And there you go. The defense have lost long desk. You'll see some of that wall will get opened up by the X-Kairos pellets. And Obey is just going to wait to see if anyone's going to rotate. Benji's on a great position out on the balcony to catch somebody as he stares all the way through Connector. And it looks like Plant actually might be set to go down here, but Obey is just waiting. There you go. Benji takes out Ghost. Trippin eliminates Adam. There goes the diffuser. K9 eliminates Skies. And, well, 2v3. As you said, Elephant Gang was in a great spot there, Devin.
Yeah, and the fact that they have Maestro still able to play that long angle down the long desk is a great place to go in terms of spraying out. Unfortunately, Avian's attempt at countering Bosco, or I mean countering the plant, is countered by Bosco. And a lot of time spent trying to fight this.
K9 gets down, but Bosco is not able to get the diffuser. Oh no, he is! Bosco getting the plant down. K9 will have to give information. Trippin, a 3 armor, will now have to get upstairs as K9 could get picked up. But shotgun out for Trippin, possibly needing to take a long-range fight. He'll have the ACOG of Bosco at his back. Trippin gets in towards the bathroom, but Bosco is just playing keep away for the time being. Oh, Trippin will land quite a bit of shots. They are both so low. K9 gets finished off, and up Trippin will pop. He sees the Zofia, but Bosco pistol out. He is making this game his own. What a start for Dylan Bosco. Bosco, 7 kills, if I read that correctly.
Well, he's trying to make sure my man is not going to get that MVP vote, that's for sure. He is definitely, this is his map so far. And like I said, it was a shame to not see him on Blackbeard, but not ashamed to see the way he's playing Zofia in this case. It's definitely down to the rest of the team to be able to step it up a little bit, but nonetheless, Bosco's helped make sure that they won 2 rounds already on this attack, and finally the bomb site's going to change down to Garage as they give up on the console. Usually you don't want to play bomb site and lose it, you know, and play it a 3rd time. As at that point, you're kind of chasing after losses, and that's just not a good mentality to be in. You need to be in that sort of flexible mentality and switch off. Avian going to bring the first mute here, which I imagine is going to be used potentially to stop a lot of different drone positions we see it in, for example, and a lot of the vertical play. I mean, we always used to talk about how it was used vertically on Oregon, but, you know, this is the map that has the most, I think, vertical spots for Butte Jammers to be used, and that's an interesting thing about it, is that when you play down a Garage, you can jam so many parts of the floor above just from the way you place it on raised spots, just because there's so many little things to climb up on downstairs in the basement, and how low the ceiling is when you're not down on the Garage part itself. So I imagine that's going to be a bigger concern than stopping the Garage from being open. So many teams now have just given up on the Garage and denying it with bandits or mutes because there's so many ways to counter it now. Going back to even, you know, the very first seasons of this game, people have found ways to deal with those batteries, and with the way vertical play developed over time, even more so. it's just going to be a difficult thing to try and stop. So you can't stop it. It's more just playing against when they get it open. In this case, they brought double hard breachers, though. So instead of just going with the Thermite, they doubled down on that by bringing the Habana as well. But interestingly, Benji is actually going to bring the Dokkaebi this time. So we'll see if their ability to make those phone calls out is going to stop any of those late roams coming around, similar to what my man was doing before. In this case, it's most likely to be Neptune's probably on that. We'll see, though. So, but Neptune's in the moment, though, still helping set up as need be.
Yeah, and here you come up to admin once again, and well, two unsuccessful defense on console office will prep you to go somewhere else. Yeah, that's pretty sensible. So,
Yeah.
Unlike the 2 kitchen setup, which we saw Obey won the second one in Coastline, they didn't lose 2 in a row and be forced to go elsewhere. I think that this is really showing that map choice plays a huge part. You know, you end up going to Coastline, which is a map that quite clearly Obey did not look very strong on. Most importantly, Bosco has 7 kills right now. I think at the end of the last game, his team's top fragger had 8 kills, which was him, if I recall. So he's really being able to put in good work here. And as long as he stays hot, it'll be very difficult for Elephant Gang to be able to make that difference. You know, another USN team had a performance with Redeemer on Space Station where he dropped something like 15 kills, or I believe he got an ace in particular. When one player gets hot, it's very difficult to deal with that.
Yeah, and again, it's not necessarily some kind of hot streak thing, but the confidence does play into a game of tactics as well as reflexes.
Bosco could get shut down early. He comes very close to seeing Trippin as that Mira of Elephant Gang just holding the angle through the doorway towards Spiral Stairs. Bosco's going to get double droned in. Oh, and Trippin's going to win that fight. So the carry of Obey, at least for this game, is vanquished. But Trippin will get traded off. Skies is there. The Hibana able to eliminate him with that bearing 9. So pulls out this SMG sidearm. And K9 will try to tussle, but won't land any shots. Both K9 and Avian have lost quite a bit of HP. So Elephant Gang not only down a member, but also currently with some open wounds.
But the upside is, yeah, they got away with those without dying, I think is the more important part, because there's only less than a minute left, and they're just now opening the garage. That actually leaves them in a good position. They have denial operators, they have the Maestro Evil Eyes still up, they have the smokes, they have I was going to say the C4 as well coming out from that. So it's just, I don't know, there's a lot to do still here to deny this. It's going to be on Adam to try and play this smart because the rest of his team is upstairs at the moment. They've only got 30 seconds left if they want to do any rotations.
So they finally get those garage panels open. The mute jammers had been flummoxing them for a little while, but there was the IQ of the man diligently using his gadget to be able to eliminate those jammers. And now Ghost is going to try to go for as much plant denial as he can, but his toxic canister will miss. In walks Adam, gets a plant down just in the corner by the open panel, and well, he's going to get shot away at, but they won't get him down in time. Yes, they will. K9, the savior for this round, and Ghost pushing up. This is the best that Elephant Gang has. Ghost pulls out the SMG-11, and that's 2. Line him up, knock him down. Benji and my man fall, and Ghost will give Elephant Gang the round after some great play from the rest of his team and the first victory for E-Gang in this matchup.
I gotta love, too, that Ghost is running the Valentine's Day skin on his SMG-11, of all things to be running. But they're going to try console one more time, feeling a little more confident from that garage attempt. This does make me worry, though, that they don't have a good third bomb site on a map that now has 4 that they finally added and already had 3 good ones. I worry about their lobby defense that they just don't seem to have, although they could surprise with it on the next defense. Maybe they're just thinking they figured out the adaptations they needed to do from that defense to carry that on to console. We'll see, though, as the lineups aren't going to change too much. Benji might go for the 6th pick again. But no, Adam's going to take it, who was actually faking a Twitch, which was a little different. He could be 6th picking over to the Thermite, depending on whether or not they feel like they need it. But again, I feel like the Hibana a better choice for this bomb site. No, he's going to play on the Jackal. That should work a little bit in their favor, although I don't know if roamers have necessarily been their biggest problem, other than if you think that's somehow going to help you take admin faster, which, yeah, maybe you can put some angles on the windows and be able to see those footprints somewhat safely, just due to the way the cubicles are structured, but it's still going to be difficult to get a lot of mileage out of that, I think, unless there's going to be heavy roam coming out from Elephant Gang.
Yeah, the bigger issue here for E-Gang, on that very first round, okay, maybe we can chalk it up to the fact that Trippin dropped unexpectedly in the final minute. The smoke had to rotate. A big part of your defense could have essentially just been removed by no fault of your own. All right, let's overwrite round number 1, and then we can focus to round number 2, which was console office being taken instead from the console office window side, instead from admin side. The bigger issue was that Obey did a good job of pushing Elephant Gang back, cornering them, and keeping them in one part of the site, and then just holding angles. And every time E-Gang tried to engage, there was good coverage, be it from Benji, be it from Bosco. On that particular garage defense downstairs, once again, it looked like it was Obey in excellent shape. They had good coverage. Again, Ghost had been forced back. He missed his smokes, but K9 came out of nowhere, and I don't think Obey saw that. And once again, I called it a blind spot in that very first match, and I think there was yet another blind spot this time too. So.
And I think some of that was down to the time management. With only 30 seconds left, I mean, yeah, you're pressured to make the plant, but it also means you have less time to check things like drones, to get things into position, to get in position to cover flanks. You are in a position much more focused on getting the plant down than on controlling the defenders outside of the ones that matter for getting the plant down itself.
Yeah, so I mean, 30 seconds to execute is definitely doable on Consulate if you've been able to bleed out most of their plant denial, but at the same time, I mean, K9 was plant denial just simply as an operator with an LMG. That's really all he was.
He used to be plant denial on Rook.
Yes. He's just been the guy that denies your rotates, he denies your pushes, and he holds those angles and shuts you down quite effectively. So we'll see what is going to happen here on console office upstairs from Obey's side of things. Are they going to attack the console office side, or are they going to go for admin? Now, usually you'll see an investment in admin, but there's a couple members of Obey over on console side, so I'm assuming this is going to shape up to be similar to the very first round.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams, like you said, want to take admin these days because it is a site that, or a site of the map rather, that you can take, and it's very difficult to retake. So that take turns into a lot more map control if you can at least hold down the long desk and then take control of projector and then push into connector. From there, you can kind of snowball things. Whereas trying to take from the console side, very risky because yellow stairs alone is such a risk for you. And you see the way that Neptune's playing, for example. But Avian with actually the first kill into Bosco. And again, we talk about how big of an impact kill that is when it's the first one. This round, again, hugely favoring. And there we go. That right there. Whew, Obey. Oh, good luck, Obey, on this.
That is a failure of somebody to drone. I don't know if that was my man's fault or I don't know if that was his teammate's fault, but there was no coverage there onto the Jaeger of Neptune's on yellow stairs, and the Jaeger will just now sprint off. Funny that Jaeger's name means hunter, and he is the one now being hunted.
By a jackal.
And so say goodbye to Ghost. So Benji, who had been repelled up towards console window, well, he gets a kill, and Skies on yellow stairs is there before K9 will just trade him off. More pressure on yellow stairs. There's the jackal, and K9 picks up a double kill. Doesn't even need to reload with the huge amount of bullets that you see from that LMG. That'll leave Benji as the last one for Obey. Well, he's got the smokes working. He's got the calls coming out. He can't control the SMG-11. He gets the downed Avian, but after clipping the bird's wings, it will be Neptune's as the Jaeger to get another kill for his team. And Elephant Gang have tied it up, sitting us at 2-2.
Well, there were some good frags in the middle there from Skies and Benji, but it just wasn't enough to turn around. I got to imagine some of the strategy for that was, so you saw them put a lot of pressure on console. They were bringing two operators that bring smoke canisters. I got to imagine the strategy was to just put some pressure a little bit on some of the other parts of the map, control the roamers a little bit, and go for a plant onto console with smokes. That's why you bring those 4 smokes. That's why you bring the phones as well. Because if you go to plant inside a smoke and phones are ringing, you can hear when they're coming on you. You can hear when they're trying to pressure you. It does give you some ability to identify where the defenders are without having to see through smoke. Not to mention the Jackal as well can ping them without having to see them through smoke if he's gotten those footprints. So I like the idea behind that, but unfortunately, their lack of control of yellow stairs early and the way that backfired on them definitely made that a lot harder to do, not to mention the fact that they had to deal with mirror windows as well. They're going to try a Ying for that this time, though. So rather than just go for the smoke, they're going to go for the full shock and awe, potentially. But they are not going to be bringing the other smoke operators. So instead, it's just going to be down to Candelas and Benji to bring those smokes. So we'll see if that works out, if they can live long enough on this push. K9 seems to be the one to usually thwart that, but it is an odd thing to see them then switch Avian over to the Maestro and K9 over to Legion, but this is the one bomb site they have yet to play, so it's definitely down to the strategy rather than preference at that point.
Not too surprising to see that Elephant Gang will go through their defensive role without seeing tellers and archives. It's the newest site that's been added to Consulate, kind of a stealthy change that I think surprised a lot of people, as a 4th bomb site being added to Consulate was never really something that was, I think,
Maybe I talked about it too much because of the way the rotations work.
I wanted to say that they have it hadn't really been talked about or anything like that for the third site or the fourth site on Consulate, but given the rotation site here, you have to go to 3 sites. It makes a lot of sense to see it. So, well, once again, admin control is going to be the first thing that Obey tries to take. There won't be much contention there, as for the time being. Elephant Gang are well far back, playing over top of B site inside a projector, which is where you anticipate at least one defender playing. Now, if I recall, it was either Obey or Strength who didn't have somebody positioned up there in a previous USN game, and that's problematic. You need to be able to hold that site for a couple reasons. Number one, you can completely cut off rotates by playing verticality up top. You're able to see through the floors. You can catch anybody coming in through spiral. You can catch anybody coming in through desk. You can catch somebody coming through the hallway towards bathroom. And most importantly, if there's smoke on the doorway, then you can give covering fire when the plant goes down. That's why you take it. But there you go. Avian upstairs, the Maestro, he's punished. And Skies will get that kill, and they'll also flush Ghost out of Projector, and he'll have to go towards Connector, where there's some ADSs set up, so if he gets pushed, he does have some salvation there, but not too much, as Obey is doing an excellent job on drones and have been for the last couple rounds, other than that one misstep we saw from a man last round on yellow.
Well, at least they've been able to hold up here. Yeah, they got pushed off it, and unfortunately losing Avian, I'd say, was a big impact here in terms of getting that down, because Bosco's taking barely any damage. They're open the angles they need to take the Projector control, flush Ghost out, but the fact that he's still alive along with his teammates pushed back a little bit, still having some top floor control, means they cannot securely set up for a plant just yet, because, yeah, you got the top floor control, you can help yourself be able to plant down in lobby. At least they have some smoke operators and the Ying to be able to help with that, but that's a much bigger room downstairs to try and Candela. That might be useful, say, for taking the bathroom to take control of it, but until they can get more solid top floor control, I'm not sure this can really turn into a plant yet.
No, and there you go. Adam's going to eliminate Trippin, so another member of Elephant Gang will fall, and you've got the hatch opened up. K9 and Ghost both knowing that the execute is going to be coming out sometime soon while their phones are ringing. Benji doing an excellent job with the disruption of Dokkaebi. But it's going to be well timed by these toxic canisters of Ghost just to be able to shut anybody down through the main doorway. Also, goo mines from K9 can possibly get in a little bit of damage and prompt any would-be diffuser from having to pull it out before they can actually go for the plant. Now, biggest problem here is that you're going to have ACOGs looking all the way through the main doorway, and, well, there's going to be Candelas at their disposal as well. They'll smoke off the cross, and there will go the Candelas. Bosco eliminates Neptunes from above. That was the Valkyrie who was playing off-site, and K9 and Ghost are essentially boxed out. Plant going down from Adam, and, well, K9's going to sprint in, but great coverage from Obey, and it's going to get locked out. Bosco doesn't die early, and with it, their fortunes change. Obey will emerge from that half 3-2.
Yeah, that's, I mean, could use the Candels at the end. I was worried that they were not going to be that useful. I mean, bathroom is the one spot where they were, but I feel like they were trying to hide the Legion right there by having Ghost peek everything and pre-fire, so they were concerned about the smoke, and the idea was that the Legion would be the surprise. K9 would come out of nowhere, get the shots on them, and then, yeah, that'd be it. But they just were not well prepared for the Candelas to blind both of them, the smokes as well, to make sure that when they could see, there was nothing to see. It was a good push because they just didn't have anything to be able to counter it since they had taken control of Projector. Good use of utility overall in getting the plant down without it being down to the last second there. And unfortunately at that point, Ghost had used all his smoke canisters already, so had he even been able to see, still wouldn't have been able to do much about it.
A couple things that you saw going in the way of Obey there, and they did quite well, was it was essentially a 5v2. My man was, I believe, tasked with trying to find the Valkyrie of Neptune's playing from above, who was very likely trying to get back to site to give some support. But because there was such a huge numbers advantage in favor of Obey, they could hold every single angle. Yeah. Not only did they smoke off bathroom, not only did they Candela bathroom and the hallway as well, which, as you noted, might have hit both K9 and Ghost, but also they had two guns that were sitting through that main doorway watching that hallway. So if one missed, the other would connect. You had another body playing inside of the hallway by the bottom of spiral stairs, watching into circle desk 2. All the while, Adam is getting the plant down, and there's no presence above the site from Elephant Gang, and that's just oftentimes an unwinnable spot to find yourselves in, especially when you've got your only remaining defenders coming from the same angle. Well, if there's two people watching that angle, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to there's going to be able to be a way to fight yourself out of it, and that's just very tactical from Obey. Played well, and they've looked a lot better than they did on Coastline here, but now as we pivot towards Obey on defense, well, that's where they honestly, I think, looked weaker on Coastline.
Yeah, and they're going to be bringing out some variation here in terms of a Clash and an Alibi. So doing some things a little bit different. I mean, they're still going with, yeah, a Smoke and a Mira, but at the same time, I mean, those are two operators that either do a lot for you or a whole lot of nothing, depending on how you play them, because they're not, I would say, like a consistent play. That's why you don't see them picked every single time most of the time. They're just, you need them for a very specific strat, and sometimes that strat doesn't work. I mean, Skies is a fairly good Alibi player, and it's something you can play if you're very good at playing roam in terms of being flexible. You have the map knowledge because, of course, you're talking about earlier, for example, Skies would rarely play DLC maps. It was just, he knew the default maps very, very well, which is good for a roamer, especially one who's just trying to deceive you with holograms and things like that. But at the same time, it can get shut down and just leave you in a tough spot. I mean, it is nice, though, if someone shoots the hologram and then they're getting marked outside. It can make peeks a lot easier on a map like this that has a lot of peek ability. But top floor control going to come down, as per usual, through admin. However, this Clash is what they need to deal with, and they don't have really any utility to do that. They don't have the Zofia. They don't have the Capitao. It's going to be a tricky thing to deal with.
Unless my ears were deceiving me, Ghosted was able to light up a bunch of Skies, and Adam will lose some HP in his duel with Neptunes, but both Neptunes and Avian will be casualties 90 seconds in, halfway through round number 6. And two operators that can do a lot of work to remodel the site. Both Hibana as well as Buck gone.
It means they cannot open the garage as well, so they have to fight a bit top down, which Ghost taking that down. That is that is important kill right there, because now they can take top floor control. But a 3v4 without the ability to open the garage, and with some of your firepower down, this is going to be a tough fight to win, especially due to Dokkaebi not being quite as powerful on attack as he used to be. Still good, but just not as good, I would say. That almost made him walk through it there for a second. He's going to take it out, though. You always got to be careful, though. It is very easy to accidentally shoot the hologram and then leave yourself in a tough spot for a few seconds.
Yeah, it can be a bit of an issue for teams where you don't think you're going to hit it, but then you end up clipping it. So great timing for the toxic canisters. Bosco is going to use one onto the yellow stairs, which is going to funnel the rest of Elephant Gang into different areas, of which you will likely see somebody playing. Trippin doesn't know, but there's a body inside a server right now, and down the main hallway, Bosco will eliminate him, so you don't even need the body that's playing inside the server. Well, Ghost is going to try to take that fight. It's Adam, all cheeky, and his peeky will get Ghost, and K9 unable to land his shots onto Benji, and Obey are looking very good through Consulate. They're up 4-2, and we could end up seeing Border in just a couple minutes if this pace keeps up.
Definitely working out good for them on the start of this. I mean, they obviously came off the advantage as well on the attack rounds, but that was the first round, and the adaptation tends to happen from there, and things, I feel like, towards the last of the 5 rounds tend to be a little more iffy, especially with situations like it was for Elephant Gang, where they were forced to their third bomb site they definitely were not so great at. You saw when they finally brought out Lobby was not the bomb site they were as confident on. So definitely a situation like that. But a Lobby is one that they are obviously more confident on for Obey, as they're going to go to it for their secondary. So they're not even really focusing on the top floor so much. My man actually going to be going for that roam play again, but this time on Vigil. He's going to have Adam on the Jaeger. So that should be interesting. Neptune's actually sneaking off to the glass instead of having Avian do that, as his job is that Hibana. And Sky's going to do something similar on that he did to Coastline as well, which is play the Valkyrie. They're not going to bring that to Mute. And the Mute might have been to just make them think it was a different bomb site, because Mute is not super useful, I would say, on Lobby, unless you're, like, say, placing the jammers downstairs to try and stop a lot of the droning on that floor. So I can understand the mentality there to make them think you might be playing a different bomb site. Bosco.
I think that if you don't have a Bosco, just has been so good so far in these 2 games, unsurprising, and I expect the same thing out of Border. Both Consulate and Border have very fond memories of Bosco's return, which was during the Paris, or was all the way back during the 6 Invitational qualifiers, which is when he had been picked up by Era, if I remember correctly, joining that team back before they were known as Obey. Made a major name for himself, both as Blackbeard as well as Smoke, and that was really where the resurgence happened, and it was both Border and Consulate where he showed up, and he showed up big.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, the Skies had used it in the past, even as a replacement for Geo, who is a well-known player as well, just on some of the LAN events. So, you know, some history going between these guys as well. A lot of history for the players on Elephant Gang. So it is interesting to see Bosco still playing it strong like that, and it's good to see as he is the captain of the team. So.
Yeah, and I have never actually been able to interview Bosco, so I'm hoping that if Obey ends up prevailing here and they do an interview, that it ends up being Bosco. Not that I want to set any expectations, because if it's somebody else, I'm not going to be disappointed, don't get me wrong. But
sad puppy dog face. Why
I have never interviewed Bosco.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because they don't do a lot of interviews, but
maybe he'll go for an interview at Vegas if they can make it.
Hopefully. So, anywho. Once again, on lobby, you're going to focus on admin here, and it looked like Avian was actually going to see the first member of Obey, and that was the Mira playing there, and Benji will get spotted, lose a lot of HP, but he's going to be able to outduel Ghost as K9 fallen earlier on, and Plant going down for Elephant Gang. So if Neptune's going to hit these shots, but he can't, that'll be big for them. In the post-plant, this is all Obey. Skies opening things up, and it's Trippin now, who will just go for some shots through the doorway. The Commando will hit, but can the defuse go down? Well, Call's still rattling away, and Trippin is going to just get cycled out of the zone. If they're working on the diffuser, which they are, it's Benji there. Trippin going for broke, and well, that's going to be very easy. Match point for Obey. It's a rush for Elephant Gang, but Obey seems to have found their footing and bounced back quite gracefully. 5-2 in favor of Obey Alliance.
I got to credit that round to Skies because the attack was actually fairly confident in terms of being able to get the potential plant down. You had the Glaz in the room there. Was a tough customer to deal with, including he was just about to get that pick through that wall towards near the bathroom door. But the C4 getting the kill on the Glaz made it a lot easier for Skies to then follow that up. But that was down to a lot of juking on his part. You saw him pretty much matrixing those bullets, dodging and weaving, trying to make that fight work in his favor. But because he won those two fights, that shut down everything that they were trying to do there. They were forced into a tough spot. The smoke started pushing them back. Trippin just could not land the shots he needed to, and it fell apart very quickly, all starting with that C4. So credit to Skies for that and shutting that down in what was, I would say, probably an unexpected attack from Elephant Gang that just unfortunately did not work out for them. And like you said, match point means Elephant Gang could be out of this fairly soon here.
Upstairs to console office we will go on match point. So, look at Elephant Gang's lineup. It has not been working all that well for them. Obey have looked better through and through on both attack and defense here, and I think there's been a bit of sloppiness and too much haste that's been coming out from Elephant Gang. That round in particular, I think, a perfect example of how fast and how loose Elephant Gang were trying to play it. Now, that kind of thing can work on Coastline because of the way that Coastline is structured. Tons of environmental destruction. You can open those walls up. Usually the defenders will open up a lot of it for you. Consulate, not going to be the same. You have to commit a lot more to being able to open up those sight lines that on Coastline, they're naturally there. So that is a problem for Elephant Gang as well, because Obey playing more conservatively and Elephant Gang playing more aggressively might work on Coastline. Sure, the attackers are going to be able to bully you, they can do well. But on Consulate, there's no real given as to whether the attackers or defenders are going to do better inherently. Yes, typically the defense does quite well on Consulate, sure. It does rely a lot on operator bans, but more than that, it also relies a lot on the way that the teams play it, and Elephant Gang have not looked very tactical. They've looked a little sloppy when they've entered. They haven't been doing as much drone work to be able to set their team up with those opening picks, and Obey has just been there every step of the way, holding the angle, fighting for a draw, or being able to take you down before you even get into the building, and that is a problem for Elephant Gang right now. They only may have one round to fix this here.
Yeah, definitely the case there. I mean, obviously that may change up on border because if what you were talking about continues on border, it may slightly favor Elephant Gang. But in this case, we'll see if we end up there sooner than later. They did manage to at least open the mirror window with that peek they had on the connector window. Now they're still getting a lot of pressure on the side here. They have the ability to throw in some extra smokes because they have, you know, a double smoke strat here along with the Glaz. But Trippin getting the early kill on Skies, I think, is a good start. That's the Vigil down. One less roamer you have to worry about. And Skies has been a much more effective roamer on this map than he was on Coastline. So that is a good start for them, but they've got to turn it into getting into the building a lot more. And this is the big problem is we've seen teams entirely win or entirely die from outside this map, much more so than a lot of other maps. And now that they've got 2 kills with K9 getting Adam, maybe we'll see this at least go to 5-3 before someone closes it out.
You also just forced Bosco to use almost all of his toxic babes, but that is going to be it. And Bosco getting shot in the knee a couple times. Insert your arrow to the knee jokes, but from Glaz instead. He's going to get away, and well, Bosco, or man, is going to get caught, and that's going to leave just Bosco, who with a tiny bit of HP, still capable of fragging, but with Trippin down, he's got to find 4 more until these become even more impactful. He'll have to silence a phone, so it rings away, with the diffuser down successfully for Elephant Gang. So the most daunting prospect that Obey has had when they look on their attack, and while he's not getting past K9, nobody holds an angle better than K9, and from behind, Bosco will not anticipate the push and just the patience as he stalks his prey. K9 getting the kill and says no thank you. E-Gang will be able to put a third on the board, but still they have a gap to close.
Well, definitely a possibility, but at the same time, that was their third bomb site. That was the one, much like Lobby was for Elephant Gang, that is their weakest. Now they go back to Garage, and if they have to, they can go back to Lobby as well. So this is where they have the potential to fairly easily shut out Elephant Gang, just because, well, this is they're better bomb sites. The flip side of that, of course, is that Elephant Gang have now seen the strategy on all 3 bomb sites, if it is repeated, and can make the adjustments they might need on those attacks. But it's just, I don't know, it's going to be a tricky one. This time, Avian, though, going with Thermite instead of Hibana, as they have an idea it's going to be Garage. And that's what I meant by these later rounds. You have a better idea. You can plan when to use Thermite. So I got to say, that is pretty much a demonstration of what we were talking about earlier, how you can bring Hibana earlier when you're not sure, and then go to Thermite when you're a little more confident. So that seems to be working out, at least in theory, for Elephant Gang, but they've still got to execute on it, because being on match point means they need to win 2 in a row just to bring this to overtime, and then still have to fight from there to win it, which at some point they may just, I don't know, they may get tired of playing this map and just want to move on to what they might feel is a better map on Border. I mean, obviously you don't give up a map, but at some point you start to feel like maybe this is turning into too much of a slugfest, and maybe we just need to, try, and if it's not going to work, you know what? We're going to do what we're going to do, but we're going to focus a little bit more on map number 3.
And keep in mind that overtime rules that apply are the same as old overtime rules for most competitive leagues, which is that you have 3 rounds of overtime. It's a coin flip to determine which team defends twice and which team would attack twice. So that's something to keep in mind on maps where there's typically an imbalance as to whether attackers or defenders can win, but on Consulate, it's a mixed bag.
Well, it seems like Obey are very comfortable on either, so I don't feel like it's a situation where the coin flip really matters too much in that situation, just because Obey are favored to win those overtime rounds either way. With that being said, we've even got 2 more rounds potentially before we even get to that point. So they've definitely got to stick it together here on Elephant Gang. Again, they're going to continue with Neptunes on that glass because Avian has other jobs to do. K9 going to be watching instead on the Twitch like he was last round, but they get the garage open within 30 seconds rather than with 30 seconds left. So that's the exact opposite of what we saw from Obey.
Yeah, Obey will concede that ground very early and then just fall back. Now, certain teams will play this very differently. There could be a bull rush from the attackers, but more often than not, once you open that garage, you know that essentially what you've done is you flushed out most of the aggressive defender players. You can't play on pipes and on the back of pillar or yellow or white van for the entire round, because likely if the garage opens up in a 5v5, the attackers will commit somebody to possibly going down spiral. This is where your roam game is going to be very important, and if Obey has great map control, they can essentially deny Elephant Gang's ability to flesh out those pipes and the white van player.
Well, so far they're not even inside the building with a single attacker.
Yeah, so I mean, right now you see that there's the struggle. Once you've been able to do the beginning of your execute, it's transitioning into that mid, and then before you get the diffuse plant down, that's where things get a little bit hairy for these teams, and I think Elephant Gang, for the time being, is just patiently waiting. You see a lot of them are on drones. Trippin is trying to find out exactly where it's going or where the defenders are going to go. They're going to have to deal at some point with Benji. You've also got my man playing on the main floor just by Yellow Stairs, but oh, Skies! Hello! Neptunes and Avian will be found, and they got to get through Skies first. Ghost will wait in, a C4 will miss. Skies looking for his 3rd kill, and Ghost is in. Another C4 will go out from Adam, playing on the bottom of Yellow Stairs. He's pushed up from pipes. Ghost will find Skies, and there you go. 2 from Obey will fall, and we're back at a 3v3. But my man, still unfound, takes out K9, traded off. Plant going down, will not go. It gets shut down. Trippin trying to get 2 bodies, but he's going to get double peeked, and that'll be it. Obey will take the round in impressive fashion. Skies starting things off and sparking that fuse on the bomb. Obey will advance to border. We're all tied up.
Seems like on those defenses, when Skies goes off, it seems to really shut down Elephant Gang, because he seems to go off on situations where it's critical to what Elephant Gang are trying to do, and that's usually the plan. I gotta credit though. Ghost baited out just about everything. He even walked into smoke to bait out a C4, baited out a second C4, and he continued to bait out everything he could, and then rather than planting, took a fight onto the cafeteria hole. It was, I wouldn't say, I don't know if it was a good strategy, but it was one that was actually working until he finally got killed during the plant, just because of lack of manpower, because of the kill that happened right before they were able to trade it on the yellow stairs. It was a tough spot to be in. Elephant Gang put up a good effort for not being in the building at all, and a lot of credit to that goes to Ghost to being able to successfully bait out everything and distract them while everyone got the kills. But either way, well played by Obey. Good shutdown of Elephant Gang. Decider could go either way, but at least we're not going to have to see any more of Consulate being slogged out by Elephant Gang not working out.
A couple things on that round in particular. After Sky's got those 2 opening picks, it's very common that you will see teams back off and have to reassess and take their time. And because of the fact that Elephant Gang got those garage panels open so quickly, well, they had the ability to make moves if they needed to and possibly change up the way that their attack strat was going to go. Now, mind you, as you noted, they did an excellent job by baiting out the utility, because I think Obey was expecting them to push, and that's exactly what they did. And because they pushed, they got those 2 kills right away onto both Adam and Skies. Traded out by Maman onto yellow stairs, but then Maman goes down as well, and now you're in a 2v2. That's an excellent rebound from E-Gang, all things said and done. Now, mind you, you still have to deal with Amira, who may have a C4, because you saw the C4 come out from the mute as well as the bandit, which means that you still have some explosives there from the defenders. And then you've also got Bosco, who had used a bunch of his toxic canisters, I think 1 or 2, but not all 3. That was winnable if they had split up, but the problem was that both of them basically tried to come in through garage, and that was all she wrote at that point, and it ended up getting locked down. So I am very impressed with the way that Obey played a number of those rounds, and if that Obey shows up on border, then I think it's safe to say that they will get the land spot. But Elephant Gang played very different on Coastline than they did on Consulate. On Consulate, a couple rounds, they tried to just simply push in, fight Obey, and make Obey have to come for the retake. Now, the thing with Obey is that you don't necessarily want to engage in 1v1 gunfights with Obey, because they reliably hit those shots. You know, when they're on, and Skies came awake in that second game. Bosco did quite well. Man did well. Adam did well. The only one who didn't really put a ton of frags on the board is Benji, but that's okay. That's not really his job, and we've seen that time and time again. He's not the kind of guy that's going to be racking up the kills. When you look at border, it's likely going to be a team effort. There doesn't need to be as much robust map control, which means that you're going to have to rely a lot more on your site play. And, well, site play was not exactly the strongest suit on Coastline for Obey.
I mean, it really comes down to what's going to happen on border, because, I mean, we've seen some consistency in how they play overall between the 2 maps, and the maps themselves seeming to sort of shape that in terms of that. But you see, as you pointed out, Elephant Gang getting a lot of overconfidence in their attacks, and I think that is something they need to think about coming into this map, because you can get away with that to an extent in certain areas of this map, but there's also certain bomb sites where that's going to get you killed, similar to what we saw on Consulate. And it's just going to be a tricky thing, and bans again are going to be a factor. We didn't see Glass become quite the strength for Elephant Gang on that map that it was on the first one, so they may or may not be a consideration for them on this map. But again, they are going to have first ban, so they could go for something besides the Lion, just to leave that again to Obey. Hard to say. Depends on what they open with here. I feel like they're ready to just exploit Lion if it's left open. And so they're not worried about it either way. It leaves them in a good, comfortable position, I think. Maverick, all right. That is one that I think is banned quite a bit more on Clubhouse, but it does have quite a few uses on this map. Of course, the Armory Lockers wall is one to consider, but at the same time, there's a lot of easy counters to that make me think you probably don't need to go for the ban on it. So there we go. They're just going to shut that down, which means Line is going to be in play here. So it should make things a little bit more interesting for the roamers as well as for the anchors when it comes to site push. We'll see how things go down for the defenders, though. This is, of course, the map that made Mirror so popular, so it's very likely to be off the board, especially for Armory Lockers. And there it goes. And we may see the Echo, or could even see the Maestro go here. Sometimes even see Valkyrie Ben.
Not surprising to see the Mirror ban at all. We'll likely see a Echo ban as well joining it. But I mean, it's all up to Elephant Gang, really. And like I said, usually with Obey, their bans are quite static. Glaz and Mira are interesting bans from what we've seen out of them in the past. And E-Gang is taking their sweet, sweet time.
Oh, well, this means it's going to be more of a strategy pick rather than just a default. We don't want to play Maestro or Echo. And there again goes the Pulse, which, similar to the way console plays out or even sometimes lobby plays out, it does make some sense to ban the Pulse because that speaks to those aggressive pushes for the plants, similar to what they were doing on console, right? Because you saw, as you pointed out, the way they want to push in very aggressively and go for the plant, that can be easily countered by a C4, which was by Valkyrie from Skies the time that they were pushing on to lobby. Similar thing here, where if you push in aggressively and take control of it, one way to help with a retake and to deny the plant is to play from below with the Pulse. If you take the Pulse off the board early, that is much less map control you have to have, like downstairs vents. You don't necessarily need to clear.
Yeah, you'll see oftentimes Pulse is a pretty common ban here for a number of reasons. Biggest reason, as you noted, playing downstairs. That's just a good position for the Pulse to play underneath the site when you're looking at armory lockers, and it pays dividends if that Pulse is able to stay alive for quite a while. You've got C4, which is plant denial. You've also got the ability to possibly get diffuser down before the plant goes down. And most importantly, the biggest thing that sensor brings to the team is just the info that you need on where the attackers are coming from.
Which is very helpful on this bomb site because there are two very different ways to attack it. If you attack from the locker side, it's one very focused kind of attack on that side for the most part and CCTV, whereas taking the off side, very different style of attack. If you could identify that early, all the better to rotate your men to set up for that. Potentially even utility. We see some, for example, when Mirror was not banned, you'd see some people even save a Mirror to make the adjustment as necessary, depending on where the push was coming from. They are setting up looking like they're thinking it's much more likely to be an office take just based off the way that the deployable shield is facing. Not that you can't use it both ways in theory, but it does make me think that's where they're planning to play it. Although he could even just be playing so that he can try and defend army lockers, and then if someone tries to push for a flank, he has the ability to counter that. But so far it looks like they are going towards the armory locker side. However, they are bringing a Hibana rather than a Thermite to open that wall. And this is actually one map where I would say Thermite's useful on every single bomb site.
Yeah, Thermite does see a lot of play here. Hibana is also seeing a lot of play here. All the hard breachers are, you know, pretty applicable. Yeah, I would say they really do work quite well. I just want to note that Echo goes unbanned here.
Yeah.
Avian is just going to be the meta abuser in chief for the time being. He goes on Glaz. Well, they ban Glaz. All right.
He's the sexy cake of this team.
He'll immediately go on to Echo, and yeah, he's going to play every operator that you want to try to ban out. And the moment it's available, well, hey, he's going to use it.
And that leaves the Clash on board as well, which we have seen a tiny bit of so far, and definitely could potentially see on this map as well. Sky's going back to his operator he's probably most well known for. Me playing that Ash. We had seen him play IQ in the past on this map and struggle with it a bit, where having my man on, as you mentioned before, an adjustment they'd made previously, seems like a good play here, so I think that might work out a little bit better. But K9, unfortunately, not holding the angle like he had, left him a tough spot. Those bars, though, do make it a little bit tricky.
K9 failing at his one namesake, which is holding an angle. Yeah.
It's early in the round.
He lets the Ash go free, and I mean, to be fair, how difficult is it for you to hit an Ash in all reality? But
yeah, you need those 80 bullets.
Yeah, so Elephant Gang is going to have strong anchor play here. Like I said, because a lot of times you don't need a ton of map control on a lot of these sites on border. We will see teams keep 5 defenders in and around both A and B. You might have somebody play close off-site just in Fountain, and that might be the full extent of it. You might have somebody playing at Beepers or by the main stairs. Who knows exactly how they're going to structure this, but Obey is going to try to use this first line gadget to establish some control. There isn't going to be much given to them. K9 is playing just by that bomb chassis with Trippin also not by his side. And these are going to be 2 important parts of the way that Elephant Gang can defend against this push. Now, Bosco has tools handy to possibly take out this prong of the defense from Obey. They can blow the shield out, they can possibly get a concussive blast out, but look at that, 2 ADSs from above, as are noted.
There we go, and his first kill from Trippin. The Yokai is right above him as well in Ghost, getting one, but Sky's hanging out on this window. Typical play from an Ash player to be able to hold that, and Benji to follow up as well, leaves just a tough spot for Elephant Gang to be in, but at least they still have the Yokai as well as the C4.
So that's an early slugfest here as they trade blows quite a bit. Neptunes comes out, he takes down the Lion. Maman and Skies will now need to be the two to hold this together. And Plant going down, but they don't know if Maman is there or not. Echo is down, Neptunes is only one up, and well, Skies had the cover, but Skies falls off. Oh no, both members of Obey will scamper off to their post-plant situation. Waiting to hear the cues from the defuse as the bandit can get spotted, but there's a possibility that he could go for this defuse actually and not get detected unless his head will pop up through that hole. Well, he's gonna go for it, and if his head is spotted, he's gonna get baited out here. They're gonna push into him, and the bandit's trying to lure them out, but they play that so well. Obey sends both their bodies to look around separate corners, and that's the coordination that Obey will need to continue to have if they want to be able to take border, and they'll take at least round one in the process.
A lot of credit to Skies there for just destroying from that sandwich window. That really put him in a tough spot because now all of a sudden the majority of their defense that could have stopped the plant was in that center of that room. Just fell apart very, very quickly. Yeah, some of them were able to fall back, like you had the Echo able to get off of it, but then he just held it there as long as he needed to get the kills and then rotated off only when he needed to put additional pressure on with his teammate. It was a good play by them, and unfortunately just there wasn't a lot from Elephant Gang to be able to do anything to counter it. So good read by Skies and taking advantage of, I'd say, probably their biggest hole because they were playing a very turtle style of defense. I mean, yeah, they had them spread out between the two bombs, but at the same time, they were not playing any kind of roam game, really. So the one spot that was going to cover the rotation back to try and stop the plant was exactly where Skies held.
You saw there the 6-pick from Skies off of Twitch to Ying, and once again, upstairs on Armory, you know how important Ying can be here. Now, with Mira banned, Twitch is not a requirement. We saw back when Mira was available to defenders every single time in Pro League, in Challenger League, in Amateur Leagues, etc., and even when she goes unbanned in US Nationals. Twitch is almost always a requirement. Number one, she's got great caliber-based destruction because it's a high rate of fire and you can open up walls pretty quickly with that F2. Number two, she's got probably the best gun on attack in her hands in that F2, as was noted. And then she also does a great job of hard countering Mira every single time, and in absence of a Thatcher, can do the work needed to take out bandit batteries, mute jammers, etc. Don't really need her now because Mira is banned. So unless you want to possibly try to take out yokais, the gadget itself is not going to pay you as much as bringing another operator who brings more plant-based utility, more diffuse-based utility, and Ying definitely does that. You know, we saw the way that they used the Ying from Obey on Consulate, being able to cut off the rotate, Ying the corner, get a plant down, and have people do coverage. It's very capable to do the same thing on Armory, especially if you get somebody up that can hold an angle on Sandwich, providing you have a numbers advantage or you put somebody up at beepers too. So
one difference is I don't think they have any way to have smoke though for this, so they're going to depend entirely on blinding them, and there's definitely places you can be standing, you do not get blinded by those candelas depending on how far they get in. So that is definitely a consideration. But this is, yeah, as you pointed out, a very useful operator for this bomb site for helping with the plant. And typically, why you see Ying banned a lot of times on this map because of this one bomb site, the push on to the Armory lockers, the ability to blind a good majority of that room. And I guess, yeah, maybe you can't smoke off, but Benji, if he pops the EE1D at the right time, is still going to lock them down whether they're blinded or not.
I am a little confused as to why Obey is not bringing a set of smokes, but I mean, that's something that we can possibly see them accomplish a push without. You know, you see Benji would run a Dokkaebi, for example, but with Lion available, they'll put him on that operator, which is a smart choice. Lion is so strong. So, anywho, you've got them being able to try to get the wall to Armory. It's going to open up. You've got double coverage from Obey as Adam drones, and this is one thing as well that I noted on Consulate, and I think it needs to be repeated here, is Obey have really tightened up their drone game, and in previous weeks of US Nationals and in other play outside of US Nationals, we've been very skeptical of the way that Obey gathers their information for the team and is able to give it to each other because they
often drone for themselves.
They drone themselves in, exactly. And that's very problematic because by the time you get off the drone, well, that info is already outdated.
Absolutely, and that's why you usually drone other people in. But they, like you said, they're doing a much better job. If you can see Adam doing it, for example, right there. Skies is just holding an angle for Bosco to be doing his droning as well. So they're doing a good job coordinating with each other. And also, Adam opened up the hole much better this time. You saw last time he had the Hibana X-Kai was just a little too high to make it so you could not crouch down and walk through the hole, whereas the third one is for the angle. So good job on him. But a great job by Neptunes as well, who actually went on the roam this time. But Bosco trades it out onto Ghost. So it is definitely going down to a slugfest again.
and you'll have the Candelas go off, as it looked like we were going to see Adam be able to get the plant. Benji manages to pull a rabbit out of a hat with Avian. Bosco collects a kill that is much needed. Adam gets downed, and Neptune's excellent job with the C4, but won't be able to get back to site as Benji holds the late flank, and there's no push from E-Gang that will work at the top of main stairs. That's 2 in a row for Obey, coming very, very close, as they have not allowed Elephant Gang to do too much through 2 rounds so far. Both Armory defenses have fallen apart, and well, would you look at that? Elephant Gang realize it's not working, let's go downstairs, and they'll go to probably the second best site here.
This is definitely feeling a little bit like Consulate all over again, what we saw with their console defense, where it tended to fall apart fairly quickly, and they tried it twice, didn't work, so they finally went down. In that case, of course, they did manage to pick it up a little bit on their garage defenses, and then eventually did win their console defense. But again, it makes me think that maybe they have a weak third bomb site, but of course this is a map where that is fairly common. Customs seeming to do a little bit better in the current meta than it may have in the past, depending on the operator bans, whereas Bathroom Tellers is still more of a French thing, I think, at the moment, than it is something you're going to see out of USN players especially. But nonetheless, Vents, as you mentioned, is a good bomb site, and one where you could see some success here potentially coming out from Elephant Gang to change things up a little bit. But Obey with an early 2 to start with is a good position to be in because, of course, you know, it's one map to one map. This is the decider map. This is where everything counts. And they're definitely looking good here, and I feel like some of the confidence of Elephant Gang just maybe getting a little bit shattered off of what we saw coming out of Coastline.
Yeah. I mean, Coastline worked really well. Like I said, it was E-Gang's map. We're accustomed to a lot of, not a lot, but some of Obey's players not liking to play the post-release maps, example being Coastline.
I feel like Border's one he picked up maybe a little bit earlier than Coastline.
I mean, Border is what, the second oldest map of the DLC releases. The only one that was released before it was Yacht, if I remember correctly. And I mean, Yacht is not a not a professionally played map across any league at the moment. So it leaves Border to be technically the oldest of the post launch.
The first competitive DLC.
Yeah.
We'll see, though. Obviously, the operators from that actually took a while to kind of catch on as well. If I remember, Buck wasn't played a ton at first, but then once they started to fix up the vaulting and things like that, he definitely became an operator we see a lot of, but not this round. Bosco, though, playing the operator, well, he's just been playing so dang well. But at the same time, we've also seen a lot of work from Skies, who, interestingly enough, is going to change up to a less aggressive operator, but one that he still plays just as effectively on the Thatcher, which is going to help them clear out anything they might need to. But there's not going to be the Echo this time coming out from Avian, because Castle is an important part of the defense on this bomb site, so it's not a huge surprise to see that shift.
So drone work, I mean, right now, like we said, Obey doing a much better job of this drone work, and they're just bothering to gather as much information as possible. Now, when ventilation and workshop, you'll typically see a more robust style of roam that for the defenders. You need that map control more than you do on Armory and Arsenal. A lot of times on Border, like every single map, you clear top down. For Obey, you know, you've got to commit yourself to taking archives first. That is usually going to be the place that you need. Take control of that hatch. If you can also get bathroom control then on the main floor, then you make it very difficult for the defenders to be able to stop a push into the back of workshop.
Now, of course, they were playing very turtle on site. There was 5 people pretty much on site rather than trying to play people upstairs, which is unusual. Most of the time there is a split defense, but instead they're going for a late retake, I think, of upstairs is the plan, or at least to contest a lot horizontally first. But the fact that they've got top floor control and they're trying to take control downstairs leads me to think this could work out very well. But K9, doing what he does, holds off well, and there's my man going down early. Going to give him some ability to push back here. There's only 50 seconds left, but Obey have that top floor control. That archives hatch you were talking about is open. So,
and you can see that there was still some bodies, or at least one body from E-Gang inside of Customs, and they're just doing a great job of shutting out Obey now. There's this drone work that we had said before, not the best this round overall, and that's 2 members of Elephant Gang that Obey have not been aware of. They'll bust out a lion call just to try and see who they can get, and
oh no,
Avian getting Bosco as they don't anticipate that there's a body there, but Benji being able to put his mark on that scoreboard. He's doing a good job both with the gadget as well as with the gun. 15 seconds left and still 1 EE, 1D left.
Unfortunately, that was the fuser that got down by Bosco, and that was trapped pretty far off site here. They may try and make a push of it, but Trippin and K9, the last 2, it is a much better round. And again, this is still looking like Consulate started out for Elephant Gang. We'll see, though, if it finishes the same way is the big difference. But a much better defense. It was interesting that both sets of defenses from Elephant Gang are starting all on site and then spreading out from there. Much more effective downstairs, it seemed, despite giving up all that top floor control. It is, again, very rare to see a downstairs only hold for that bomb site because of that top floor control being so important. It is weird to see it conceded so early and to still win it. But again, it was that late kind of retake strategy, and the way they were playing downstairs in Customs and Passport, they were taking advantage of the solitary pushes coming out from individual attackers. Because when it was a strong push upstairs, pushing against it, you were likely to get traded. Downstairs, one at a time, fish in a barrel. We'll see, though.
Good metaphor. Going back up to Armory Arsenal. Now, this is going to be the third crack at this site for E-Gang. A couple things have happened every single time. Number one, their echo play has not been able to last until the latter rounds. And some of that credit needs to go to Obey. Obey has been able to put pressure on the site that they're not taking and box out the defenders very well and very early. They're not falling victim to that clock. In fact, both pushes that we've seen on Armory Arsenal from Obey have been very well timed. And I think a large part of that just goes to the fact that E-Gang isn't investing much off-site. Now, I said, you don't necessarily need a ton of map control. It's not outside of the ordinary to see really good teams keep all 5 bodies either on site or within a second or two of a run to get back to site. There's no deep roams, you're not really keeping anybody down below because on border it's very easy for you to get pinched, especially with how destructible most walls are. Now, I would actually like to see Elephant Gang possibly put a body inside a CCTV or maybe even keep somebody downstairs on a late flank just to try and kill the clock for Obey if Elephant Gang wants to be successful on that. Because, like I said, Obey's time management was great on those first 2 rounds.
I think some of that, too, is the opposite of what we saw in Consulate Garage, for example. Is they're getting the wall open very early. You're seeing Adam to go up and do his job. He opens his crawl hole or crouch hole, then opens up his angle hole, and then it's so much pressure on that one room that does free up the rest of the attackers to start to make those flank pushes because, well, obviously Elephant Gang can't just be like, well, we're not going to watch the locker side, where they're pushing from, especially with the angles they open, kind of puts them in a more passive role because they're starting to pin them down into spots. And, I mean, Elephant Gang are trying to play it passive. They're not trying to over-peak it, which is good. But like you said, then they're opening up themselves to that flank because of that time management, because they're getting the wall open early. It's just they're not doing a whole lot to be able to contest that wall being open. But Adam being on Thermite this time instead of Habana will be interesting to see if it changes that dynamic.
Yeah. Struggling with that bandit battery on the wall. They'll try to get a body underneath at some point to try and open things up. Nice to see that Neptunes is embracing the bandit iron sights here. Probably the best iron sight in the entire game. Yeah, you've seen a large number of very prominent players that have used it, so not really much of a surprise there. But Neptunes is probably the farthest off-site we're going to see anybody really try to venture. Just watching the top of East Stairs, if there's going to be anybody from there, as he's got his back to the exterior wall. Problematic for Elephant Gang. They're going to see Ghost rotate over towards that office wall, the soft wall. So the Jaeger has been spotted, and if they know they have Neptunes, well, that's going to be possibly an easy frag, but they spot 2 downstairs, and oh, my man takes out Ghost, and unfortunate, doesn't get caught. But Neptunes is still there. There's a drone not too far behind him. If somebody is watching that drone, he will get picked up. K9 takes out Sky, so there will be 2 members down in this matchup, 1 from each team.
Well, they're doing a good job delaying time, at least the time management you're talking about. As Bosco takes down K9, though, and the line EED1 goes off, they're going to start to get set up for this plant. Fortunately, the bandit playing below isn't doing a whole lot to be able to help at the moment, as he gets shot in the back, well, his front as he turns around. But my man, it is now down to the 2 site push delay operators to try and stop this, unfortunately not landing the shots, and Bosco doing his job.
Here's Avian with 20 seconds to go. Now, like I said, the Echo could be particularly viable here, but he's going to have to engage himself in just a straight fight. Mark's going out. He's got Yokais available, but Avian is not able to get it down effectively. Now, with the Lion Gadget down, oh, Benji takes out my man, but there's Bosco to eliminate Avian. And Obey is all over the map on this one in a good way. 3-1, and they are just storming through this first half. Avian could not get on the drone fast enough, fearing the push from the Lion. That hesitation cost him, and just a bit of panic there as he was likely being fed multiple calls, and Mark's going down. Unfortunate timing.
And we were talking earlier quite a bit about how they were strategizing to leave the Lion for Obey to ban. In this case, it seems to be backfiring on them, at least on their defensive rounds, because now the Lion's being abused quite a bit by Benji to lock them down in key positions. You saw some good flanks from him as well. He's playing that role to a T, almost if, I don't know, that they wanted Lion to be here on this map. It seems to be working out very well for Obey. However, this being the last defensive round, we may see this, after this round, switch around in favor of Elephant Gang taking full advantage of Lion as well. So things could definitely switch, I think maybe more so on this than we saw on Consulate. In Consulate, they just couldn't abuse the Glass the same way they did on Coastline, whereas here they can abuse the Lion. They're just not going to have that Glass, so it does definitely depend on how things flip around. But we're seeing them really stick to this lockers thing. Now, what we saw on Consulate was they lost console twice, they switched bomb sites, won it, and then tried console again. They tried to do the same thing here. Lost lockers twice, played garage, won it, and then went to go to console. Lockers. This time they didn't win though, and that puts them in an even tougher spot than they were in on Consulate.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The last time we saw Elephant Gang play last week, Lion wasn't banned at all. So I mean, you had him available. He could have possibly been used, but I didn't really see anything that really struck out where they were possible. They needed the Lion to possibly win outright. They were playing against members only. There was a bit of a disparity in terms of skill there. I think that was pretty apparent. There was a disparity in terms of strats available as well. So you don't need to what would the term be? Sweat as hard, so to speak. But because of this, I think most teams are going to be able to get a lot out of Lion. It doesn't matter how practiced you are. It doesn't matter how good you are. Lion being unbanned is going to enable a play style that we don't see without him because Dokkaebi is a poor substitute for it. And I'd imagine that we're going to see Elephant Gang use it. Now, if this round goes in favor of Obey, I don't know if Elephant Gang have the same firepower over the last map that we just witnessed and moving forward to be able to match a 4-1 scoreline, because that's essentially what they'd need to do in order to send it to overtime.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be in a tough position. They obviously have to keep it from getting to that, at least close to that scoreline. The longer they can delay the match point from Obey, the higher chance they can win it without having to go to overtime, which is obviously a much more favorable position to be in. They are going to be bringing the Ying again on this attack from Skies. I didn't see whether it was 6th picked or not, but probably was because he was being sneaky with it last time. Might as well do that again. Adam again going to be on Thermite. They could actually go for a push here from Office, which I think at this point might be unexpected by Elephant Gang because, well, they push so well from the locker side time and time again. You saw the Yokai drone was up in Archives right there. Might have spotted that there was push coming, though, because you could see that that window was open. You get some idea that there's potentially push because, well, that's the start of a push-in, is either to open up some of the Office wall, which in this case is reinforced, or open up the window. So if Elephant Gang read into that thanks to the Yokai drone spot, they could be rotating now, which you could see from the Jaeger position of Ghost.
Doubling up bodies to try and spot the Jaeger, as you noted, of Ghost, but he is not going to take the bait. In fact, he'll see the drone and he'll push back farther into Fountain, and at that point is likely unattainable. The frag will slip through the fingers of Obey Alliance. So they will have to figure out a new strategy here. Is once again we see 4 of the defenses for Elephant Gang up top at Armory Lockers. Has not been successful, and it's not going to start off all that well. With 2 minutes in, the first kill is going to come out to Bosco. He takes out Neptune, say goodbye to the Mute, and 1 Nitro Cell will fall. The only Nitro Cell available from Elephant Gang, providing Neptunes didn't run a bulletproof camera.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a tough spot to be in because you can typically throw C4 over quite a few of those walls, try and stop plants in in Archives, which is where the plants is most likely to come down. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a bummer for them, but the Lion does come out. They have Candela still here, at least 1 left, to try and make it a party through that sandwich window potentially. Or Ghost, though, in the meantime, does at least take down 1, and there you go. You see my man falling as well. So Elephant Gang actually fighting back hard here, but Ghost and Trippin low on health. K9 doesn't need the health. He's just going to take down Bosco.
And K9 will get punished for his crimes against Obey. Benji inside a CCTV, and oh, Skies is there! He's disoriented by the Yokai. Ghost still on the roam. He'll take out my man. Avian down Skies, then Avian falls. They just need to find the Jaeger. Benji looking to be the superstar here. He got benched, but no! Ghost detected through the wall. They can't get past the Jaeger, and Ghost just on the move. They had him pinned earlier. He rotated. They could not get him after 2 E1Ds from Lion, and he makes his mark on that round, almost single-handedly winning it for Elephant Gang.
Definitely well played. Unfortunately, the Office's take not seeming to be their strength. All the ones they won were all attacking from the locker side, and we kind of saw why. They opened it early. They were able to start to make a push. They were able to flank with Benji. They were able to lock them down with the Lion, EE1D, to stop anyone from being able to go for a late flank or a late rotate. It was definitely a good strategy. Unfortunately, because they were spotted out early in their push into the office, because the adaptations came, it definitely worked out much better. But there was a lot of good frags coming out there. It was unfortunate to see Neptune's peeking a little too early or maybe a little too aggressively on that hole. Timing not working out for him. Sky's going to try Clash again. But at least Elephant Gang here are not in the worst possible spot. A 3-2 scoreline is definitely not unusual at all because someone has to come away with the majority of points from the first half. So being down only 1 point, not terrible. They're going to have to play attack just as well as Obey. K9 going to be the one on that line. Avian going to be doing, well, he does a lot of the hard breach. I mean, I guess he's always doing the hard breaching for the most part because the only times we weren't seeing the hard breacher was when he was on Glass. So seems to be his role, which is, I mean, typically been his role. We were talking about players that were former support operators. He's definitely one that was playing Thermite or Hibana quite often in his previous teams.
Now, this is interesting to me that Elephant Gang wouldn't run a Thermite. He's not banned. We saw Thermite get brought out by Obey. Now, Adam will typically play that role if they need him to. They used to put Benji on hard destructor roles as well, but it's been Adam as of late who's been fulfilling it. On Elephant Gang, this is going to be a stylistic choice. So you can run a Hibana here. Sure, you can run a Thermite here. It's really open to whichever you prefer, but I like that they're bringing the Hibana as the 3 speeds. They're going to give her, you know, the ability to burn the ADSs with the stun grenades, of which Benji's ADSs will fall victim to if they use them correctly. And on top of that, I mean, up until the nerf to the Bearing 9, it was indisputable. Hibana was a much better fragger with 2 very strong guns over Thermite. You know, I know a lot of people like the 5.56 that he uses. It's an alright weapon, but it is, Hibana's Type 89 is so strong, and then you also have that Bearing 9 available. So I think that this is just bringing a little bit extra gun power or firepower for Elephant Gang.
Absolutely. I mean, and we saw the way that Adam was using it as well was to be able to play a little bit safer on getting the wall open earlier in a way that you were unlikely to die, which was the smart part of that. I mean, you want to make sure that you can get that stuff early. You have the ability, as you said, to burn some ADSs. It was a good way to approach it, and you also opened up a nice angle that you couldn't have opened up with Thermite, which is where he opened up a hole and then a hole to the right of it that was more for an angle to be able to put some pressure on. So it was more strategic than just, say, blindly opening up a big walk hole. And there goes the batteries, thanks to good play from below by Neptune's on the buck, which he's been playing a lot. But Sky's just standing in the doorway, playing that Clash again. It didn't work out terribly well for them on Coastline, but he also didn't get killed very early most of the time. It was just the case where he wasn't able to turn that into a lot of wins. Yeah, he's going to get stunned, though. Yeah, they're going to try to push him back, and Trippin just not fast enough to get back onto the assault rifle there, the M7, as Skies is just going to retreat a little bit farther back into the site. But they will forfeit control of the wall, and there will go armory control, at least towards the exterior of the site. Now, it took Elephant Gang 3 rounds to be able to get this site under them. So who knows if Obey is going to have better results this time around. It is very clearly an armory take. There is very limited members of Elephant Gang anywhere outside of that, and well, they'll start things off by finding the Clash. Goodbye to Skies, and oh man, we were right under the drum. We all got stunned. Yeah, we all under the effects. We were all under the effects of Lion as well. So, excellent job to take out Skies. Bosco will hold point. He's got an asphyxiating bolt next to him. Ghost takes out Benji, and well, Bosco is going to smoke and immediately drop, but he might actually have somebody not too far off. On rappel here on Sandwich, my man cannot land the shots, and oh, Bosco will get it. Ghost falls, but now Bosco's presence from below has been alerted to Obey, so they can stick somebody on flank watch and possibly take out the smoke, but no, there is none. Bosco takes out Neptune's K9 refrags and still holding an angle with Trippin there. Adam now we'll have to work against the diffuser, but even when the EE1D goes before it finally pops off, Trippin collects the last 2 kills, and after diffuse goes down, it's Elephant Gang tying things up. Now, unfortunately, it took Elephant Gang much longer to get the wall open and get into position for the attack, as, you know, it would take maybe a good 30 seconds to 45 seconds for Obey to do the same thing, which was the flip side of what we saw on Consulate Garage. But it still seemed to work out for Elephant Gang, and I think a lot of that was just determining the position of Obey players before they started to open things up. It's like, well, let's get set up to be able to take advantage of the information we have once we open it up. So we're not just opening it up, then figuring it out from there. And it seemed to work out overall in the end, unfortunately. Bosco seeming to outplay them a bit, but hey, he did eventually get killed. But killing 2 is the smoke. But it also left in a position where as soon as they knew the smoke had dropped, like you said, they knew what his position was. That meant they knew they could go for the plant without smoke being used to counter them. To be fair, he still could have thrown up smokes from underneath into the wall from the hatch and still been able to do it that way potentially, as especially since Avian was very low on health from the first smoke canister. That being said, though, he did find another body before he finally got finished off by K9, who was doing what he does, holding the angle, similar to what Benji was doing on the line as well. Because Lion is a good flank holder. He can still use his utility from wherever he's on the map. So when he's holding an angle, he's still potentially useful at a moment's notice. And so I like that. Not to mention he could bring a Claymore if you're going to use that as part of your flank hold as well. So it was a pretty good typical play in that sense. But either way, though, a very good round for them. And surprisingly, Sky's going over to Smoke and Bosco, taking up the Legion. And I mean, I know the strats are specific to what you want to do, but it's unusual to see someone who's so consistently played Smoke throughout this match switching that up.
I feel like when he used to play on Elevate and on CLG, we saw Skies experiment with Smoke a couple times. You know, it was usually England or Chapstick when they were on the team fulfilling that role. But Skies played it a couple times, if I remember correctly. There was one match on Oregon in particular where he had decided to rock the Smoke play, especially when looking downstairs. So it's an operator that is not a strange choice for him overall. I mean, it's a strange choice in the sense that his playstyle doesn't really align with the way you're going to use a Smoke. But it's not a strange style in the fact that we have seen this at least once or twice or a couple times before. And just to touch on, if I can go back to the previous round, just to touch on what you were talking about, Lion being able to hold flanks and hard hold angles, the V308, the gun that he uses, is very strong. It's also got a huge magazine.
That makes a big difference for flank holds.
Absolutely. So that's something that he's got a good gun, a decent fire rate, lots of bullets. And you saw, he crushed Bosco. Didn't take many shots to the back for Bosco to be eliminated.
Well, either way, good map control being taken here of at least the archives. Like you talk about, you know, this is where you get that early control. Office is generally the main approach you see most teams do for this take to start with, because it is where you don't want to fight into lockers then have to try and fight everyone in archives and office. Those fights generally don't work out as well in your favor as they do pushing this way. Although it usually is a lot of times hard to get that last person hanging out in lockers if they are going to do so. But this is taking a fair bit of time to start to make this push in. And they're going to have to start to execute on the site. We saw, for example, when Obey took the top floor, took them a while, they got situated, but then the comeback from Elephant Gang, once they started spreading back out from the site, we could see something similar here come out from Obey. They do have the Smoke and the Echo to delay things, but actually the first Ela being played as well from my man, he is going to be playing in customs. If he gets droned out, chances are, though, if someone's not droning for someone else, he's going to be far away by the time, as you said earlier, that information can be used by your own drone.
Absolutely. And, oh, man, Adam very, very low, flirting with danger here on a flashing bar of HP. He is susceptible to being shot from just about anything and dying. He's running the Supernova, which is, once again, this is a stylistic choice that we see for certain teams, obviously using it for site construction. I'm curious to know exactly what Skies is running. He might actually be running the FMJ, or the FMG rather, if he doesn't have the shotgun, which could be a big part of why Adam is running it. So that would definitely up the fragging potential if you took the shotgun out of his hands. So they managed to take control of the bathroom wall. EE1D will burst out. Neptunes gets the first kill onto Benji, and that will take a minute or 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Quite brisk to be able to get towards sight. Now, Skies, though, eliminating Avian and Trippin in sight. He's got a goo mine in his foot that he will need to pull out. Ghost finds my man, and, well, Elephant Gang looking to take what would be their first lead here on Border. Trippin absorbing a lot of damage. Skies is there, picks up his second kill. The Smoke putting in good work. Ghost finding goo mines and will need to stop again as there goes the final EE1D. Neptune's in sight, and he's just frag chasing. Skies a third kill. He's trying to get every single one of them, but he'll be shut down by Ghost. They'll need to grab the diffuser and start to plan as they're running out of time, but there's a yokai in play. Neptunes, you have a gadget. Use your gadget to find the yokai. It's so easy, and, well, Obey is going to win it because Elephant Gang don't realize that you can pull out IQ's sensor and find the yokai a lot better than you can just simply trying to look at it.
I hate to say this, but appropriately named operator. Either way, though, not going to doubt Skies on the Smoke next time with that nice 3K on site. Not to mention Bosco did just fine on the Legion as he was alive for a good chunk of it as well. So either way, that strat seemed to work from them, although it really did come down to the yokai and a little bit of a misplay by the IQ player, and that was definitely a little bit of a mistake-areno right there. However, they do win that bomb site, which means they have to switch, and, well, they're just going to go right back to lockers. We saw Elephant Gang a lot more persistent in playing lockers than we're seeing from Obey, but we'll see if they can get second time the charm. Skies is going to tease, but still go back to the operator that he played last time with another 6th pick. See if that's as effective as it was last time. Now, they are bringing the Capital and Zofia again, which are the two counters to that, so assuming maybe they call up Ghost a little bit sooner instead of trying to have Trippin, deny that. That'll be a little more effective. I mean, as you noted, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to switch back to your gun fast enough to do significant damage to take down the Clash player. You're more than likely just wasting time and utility of your own at that point to accomplish very little and mostly nothing against the Clash player, especially someone like Skies, who's been doing just fine on it.
All right, and I mean, he's done it. I would say fine is probably a bit courteous.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's stellar. Don't get me wrong.
I think the Clash play has been largely unimpactful overall for the way that Obey has used it. In my opinion, they have been using Skies a little bit too aggressively. He's been able to get picked off a number of times. You need to be more conservative with it. The rest of his team.
Yeah.
The rest of his team, they really need to be there in order to give him the safety that a Clash needs in order to live for quite a while.
He's not dying early, but he's also not denying early.
There's very little that we've seen out of the Clash that has been effective. Example, the first time that we saw an armory push from Elephant Gang, they basically ignored the Clash until they decided to hit her with a concussive blast, asphyxiating bolt her, and well, that was all she wrote. After that, Skies dies, and
True enough.
It's that's obviously a pretty big change for what we've seen out of a lot of different Clash plays. So Vents didn't work, all right, or Vents did work, my apologies, all right, so we'll head back up to Armory, which didn't work the first time around. And once again, Skies is going to play this Clash exactly the same way.
And the Elephant Gang doing the same strategy of setting things up a lot before opening anything up. Again, the opposite of what Obey seemed to do, where they wanted to open things up early. We're seeing, again, very similar play coming out from both teams, really. It's just a case of who's going to start to break the other team first in terms of getting the kills. I'm not sure why Trippin feels the need to contest so much. Avian catching out the Jaeger didn't need to go for the ping necessarily in terms of revealing a drone, but Neptunes was ready to take advantage of the ping, so well done. And that is a nice early kill. That's going to start things off. That is the advantage you need early on, because now that's someone you don't have to worry about on that roam, and a lot of people are going to be stuck on site at this point, because you look at the defender lineup, that's mostly going to be anchors at this point.
Yeah, so here you have it. Appears to be a pretty respectable bandit trick there. Either that or they just haven't gotten the bandit wires at all. Actually, doesn't look like they got the bandit wire. So in order to get it successfully, well, they're going to use an EE1D, but Ghost will just stand and watch as there goes the wall. So there will be no successful bandit trick, and at least one round of those XK-Ros from Avian will go off successfully. That will open up that armory wall, at least to a certain extent, that the defenders that aren't Clash will have to scramble away.
Well, they have at least the Clash pinned down to an extent where I should see a Firebolt come out here at some point, either behind the half wall or next to the lockers itself, in a position where Skies can't move as much as he would like. He's trying to remain fluid. Trippin's job seems entirely to be to shoot at him, but again, that timing is just not there from that. The E1D, the second one coming out here to try and help their push, but they're starting to run out of time. 29 seconds, and Bosco's still just hanging out in small office. My man on the corner, and Skies does take a little bit of burn damage, but nonetheless, he's still in play. Neptunes, though, with a second kill on Adam. That's going to help out as the flank comes out from K9. There we go.
And man, a nice pistol kill from K9. He'll collect a double. Oh, K9! Oh my goodness!
You just talked about the V308. He doesn't need it. I don't think he reloaded either. That was 3 people with 1 mag potentially.
All it takes, K9.
Oh boy.
Man, absolutely astonishing to tie this one up.
Here's the thing at this point. If you're playing lockers, there is one thing you can expect, that the Lion will be coming around behind you consistently, whether you're Obey or whether you're Elephant Gang. It is the one thing that has been consistent between both teams on these attacks when they're attacking Armory. You can either count on him coming through the metal detector, which has been fairly consistent, or potentially through the fountain side. But more often than not, guess where he's going to show up? Metal detector. And why? Because it's working almost every time, even if K9 has to pull out the pistol. I like that he went to go for a flank on Bosco inside the small office, jumps through the window, is like, hey, where is everybody? I expected him to be in here. All right, well, I got my pistol out. Because he was going for pistol for speed, I imagine. In that case, or might have even just used all of his bullets. It was just like, well, I got to get pushing while the E1D is still effective. But nonetheless, great play by K9 to really save a round that was starting to run out of clock.
Yeah, that was definitely one that could have really broken either way. I think that Obey was in decent control, especially with their ability to take a lot of those XKROs out of the equation. The fact that they weren't able to open up the wall on Elephant Gang's side of things could have been really detrimental through that latter part of the round, and especially in order to get the plant down, it would have been very difficult. Because when you've only got one round of XKROs on the wall, that little window that you have doesn't provide you an opportunity to get into sight, number one, unless it's down at a crouch level or a crawl level where you can crawl through it. Other than that, it's basically just going to work as a popped mirror window. That's all it is at that point. It's going to be essentially a two-way mirror. You can see them, they can see you, you can exchange fire. That's all it really does. Now, similar to the way that we see Maverick be very effective, though, just being able to poke holes in the reinforcements, it's still going to mean that defenders can't defend the same way because there's going to be that looming pressure. You called it about Glaz. There's always the thought of Glaz being there. He doesn't actually need to actually be there. He doesn't need to be getting shots off, but you see the smoke, you don't contest it because there might be a Glaz. Same thing with that wall being opened up by the XKRO.
They did at least have the Clash, though, which was the one thing they could use to just stand there and look out that hole. So that was probably the biggest counterpoint to that, was just being able to do that. But there's a nice kill there from Skies to start things out on Neptunes, who was the one to get the first 2 kills last round. So that is a good start to the night. It looks like they could be rotating around for an office push, which we saw didn't work out all that great for Obey. So Elephant Gang going to have to do what Obey couldn't, because now it's tied. And this is where, as you said, Elephant Gang need to have quite a bit of a win streak to come back on this. But we could see them take that lead. They just haven't had the greatest start to this round. Adam this time going to be on the Echo instead of the Maestro this time. So that might work out a little bit better for them. He's not going to be bringing the Supernova. He's just going to be going with the MP5. Be able to play the angles a little bit better. Ghost going to be on that Capital. So pretty much the same attacker lineup. Not too much changed here, other than the fact that they've lost Neptunes early and they're attacking from a different side. But, I mean, I got to imagine some of that's just they just did not feel they could deal with my man's bandit tricking anymore. And he's a long-time bandit player and a very good one, so I'm not terribly surprised at all.
I also think that they didn't actually get the bandit trick that first time, right? I think they just shot at the wall with the XKROs, assuming the job was done, and, well, that was obviously a problem. But anywho, Ghost evening things back to a 4v4 as you see more Toxic Babes go. And this time, well, with using his eyes, he's able to spot the Yokai drone. And
putting the eye in IQ.
Yeah, and is able to pop it off. And they've got the wall now with the bandit batteries. They can push into archives there. So, though Ghost is taking a bit of damage, he's going to shoot out one of the asphyxiating bolts. And, well, look at that. Bosco losing half of his HP, and he just needs to move. As Adam positioning a second Yokai to go back into archives. It's just sitting by the wall. There's no IQ as Neptunes is dead. So once again, they're going to have to use their own eyes to try and get it. And a great shot from Adam onto Ghost.
Well, that's why you bring that instead of the Supernova to be able to fight those long angles like that, as he's able to play. He was being very conservative with his second Yokai, making sure he didn't expose it too early, and the proper time coming out for now, but he does lose it, denying plant in the process. EE1D, though, going to try and re-secure it, but it is a 2v4. Bosco is a little bit low in health, but the E1D is not able to stop it out as Benji gets one. K9 trying to at least do what he can with his gun in the process. Might still have to switch to the pistol after all to try and clutch this out. Bosco still fighting the fight with his low health that he has. And Skies and Benji going to be in good flank positions as well. Fortunately, that is maybe an impactless kill with 9 seconds left and a lot of spray coming at you. He's still going to try, though. K9 fortunately cannot do it as Skies is just right around the corner. And that is the lead potential lost, as Obey takes, again, the lead from Elephant Gang.
5-4 match point for Obey, and land point as well, if we want to call it that, as they would head to the USN Championships, and if we want to call it that as well, the USN Finals.
We'll call it interview point. In
Las Vegas. That is very true. I'm pulling that if Obey wins, that it ends up being a Bosco interview, as I said I would.
Yeah.
Dylan Bosco.
Dylan Bosco. Is that like Flynn?
Rob Flynn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bosco sounds better than Flynn, but
that's true.
That's besides the
point.
Don't
tell Rob.
Couldn't see some heroics from K9 there. Doesn't have the pistol out. Unable to secure 3 kills in a row to end the round. And of course, Obey using their utility a lot better. There have been mistakes from both these teams here on Border, but overall, I've given the benefit to Obey in the way that they've been able to play it out so far. You know, and defense now going back downstairs to Vents, which is where they won previously after they were finally able to crack Armory Lockers last round, will mean that if this fails, we go to overtime between these two teams, which would be a fitting end here between them.
Definitely a possibility. We're seeing similar things coming out from these teams in terms of trying as many times as they can for lockers, playing Vents when they have to. It is definitely a case where no one is going to be going to a third site at all. It's definitely going to be down to just these two. Either way, though, we'll see how it goes down, as it definitely could go to the overtime. Sky's going to be on the smoke again, and Bosco and Legion, so same strategy basically as last time. And we hope that if Neptunes gets the opportunity this time, he does look for Adam's drone, the yokai, and is able to stop it. But either way, again, we'll see how it goes down from here. Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm really impressed with Sky's overall play. You know, we've been very critical of Skies over the last season or so, and the way that he's been using his gadgets, the way that the teams have allowed him to use his gadgets, because it's not even just the way that Skies uses utility, it's the fact that the team hasn't reined that in, or maybe they've tried, who knows, that's all speculation.
Hard to tell.
But today, I haven't really seen any glaring misuse of utility outside of maybe the Clash play being a little bit lackluster for Skies. Outside of that, it's been a pretty good day for him. He had a bit of a slow start on Coastline, that's okay, but since then he's really picked it up. He's been getting impactful frags. He's been playing important operators on both attack and defense. Most notably on defense, he was instrumental in that one round on Ventilation Workshops downstairs, going in favor of his team as Smoke, getting it to the point where the clock ended up being the thing that defeated Elephant Gang, because the yokai was able to knock them out of a plant as that clock struck 0. So overall, I've been very impressed with what we've seen out of Skies, and he's played a lot better with the team. And in fact, when Skies does play close with the team, either on attack or defense, Obey looks so much better. So I don't understand why they don't try to do that more often, because their chances to win certainly rise.
I mean, it used to be the case where what you did, especially what the team did before when it was like CLG and things like that, they would tend to just be like, Skies, do your thing. Like, you didn't necessarily need to have him focus as part of the team. It just was the rest of the team would kind of do their thing part of it. Same thing with Laxing sometimes as well. But again, yeah, like you put it on Obey, that just doesn't seem to work the same. It doesn't seem to have the same cohesion in terms of that. But he has been able to show up. And as you mentioned, it's not that he's getting kills, it's that he's getting impactful kills many times, especially on defense outside of the Clash plays. That are, yeah, you get 1 or 2 kills, but if those are the most important 2 kills that happen, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Adam is going to have one drone there in a position that even if they can spot it, they really can't do much about it right now, which is good. But it looks like he's rotating it, and I guess it's to conserve it at this point, but that could end up being a mistake, as that could have been a great position to stop their actual push here. Neptune's the only one who's taken some damage so far with 2 minutes in. It's surprising how long it's taken to push this in here, despite Ghost trying to play on this aggressive Ashe. It's really just not working.
And they're going to need to use an E1D to try and take this control away from Obey, and still struggling for the time being. Skies has moved just a little bit back, but my man eliminates Neptunes, and now Avian goes down to Bosco. They are feeding themselves into Obey, and Obey has not taken a single dent nor scratch to the paint job at all. Trippin will round the corner, and well, there's Bosco winning that fight. Miraculously, Elephant Gang will rely on both Ghost and K9, with Obey primed and ready to go to Las Vegas. Long range, Sky's doing a lot of damage. No, actually no damage whatsoever, and he's missing, but there you go. He'll get the down, detected by an E1D. K9 in a clutch or kick scenario. Can he push his team to overtime? A man on his belly will give Obey the spot, and Las Vegas's 5th team at the USN Finals will be Obey Alliance, 2-1 over E-Gang.
Third time's the charm this time for Obey. We'll see if the same ends up being for Mouse as well, but either way, good on them. They worked very hard to get here to this point, and I got to imagine they're happy that Benji being able to show up definitely paid off this time. It was, as you said, a bit of a struggle and slow start, but nonetheless, they came through in the end. The most important part, of course, being the decider map, which basically this